Good evening, everyone. Welcome to both our regularly scheduled November 7th meeting. We will run concurrent with a special meeting. The special meeting item will occur after item 15, so something that most of you will not be here for. But under the laws of California, we have to let you know that is occurring. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
How do I do this? Councilmember Baldino, missed one meeting and I'm lost.
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember Giroux.
Here.
Councilmember Perstak. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel.
Here.
And Mayor Boyles, who is not with us this evening.
Mayor Boyles is not here, so you are subjected to me this evening. We'll begin tonight's meeting with an invocation from Father Alexi from the St. Andrew's Russian Greek Catholic Church and follow with a Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Baldino. If you would all please rise.
Let us pray. Holy One, known by many names and beyond all names, Spirit of life, Spirit of love, Spirit of community, Spirit of justice. We ask your blessing this evening on the members of our City Council as they have been called to lead our community in which we live and work. Remind them, because we all forget from time to time, especially in the noisiness of what passes for civil discourse today, that they are not only leaders, but also civil servants, and that it is their responsibility and ours to serve the common good of all. Remind them that everyone is our neighbor, our sibling, and that throughout the ages, prophets have called the leaders of the people to respect and protect the least of those among us, our children, the elderly, the poor, those who are hungry, those who have no homes, those who are ill in body and mind or spirit, the strangers in our midst, those who live on the margins, those who are alone, those who are forgotten. Grant them and us the wisdom and the courage to know and to do what is right and good and true. May they and we speak out when it is time to speak out, and listen patiently and respectively when it is time to listen. May they and we always be guided by the spirit of community, by the spirit of justice, by the spirit of love. This we pray in the name of all that we hold sacred and holy, all that we hold good and right and true. Amen.
Thank you much, Father Alexi and Councilmember Baldino. We'll begin tonight with 3 special presentations. The first presentation will be from Councilmember Brewstick.
Okay, this is the Family Court Awareness Month proclamation. Whereas the mission of the Family Court Awareness Month Committee, FCAMC, is to increase awareness on the importance of the family court system that prioritizes child safety and acts in the best interest of children. And whereas the mission of SCAMC is fueled by the desire to create awareness and change in the family court system for the conservatively estimated 58,000 children a year ordered into unobserved contact with abusive parents, while honoring the hundreds of children who have been reported as murdered during visitation with dangerous parents. And whereas the mission of the FCAMC is to increase awareness of the importance of empirically based education and training on domestic violence and child abuse, including emotional, psychological, physical, and sexual abuse, as well as childhood trauma, coercive control, and post-separation abuse for judges and all professionals working on cases within the family court system. And whereas the mission of the FCAMC is to increase awareness on the importance of using scientifically valid, evidence-based treatment programs and services that are proven in terms of safety, effectiveness, and therapeutic value. And whereas the mission of the FCAMC is to educate judges and other family court professionals on evidence-based, peer-reviewed research. Such research is is a critical component to making decisions that are truly in the best interest of children. This research includes the Adverse Childhood Experience Study, child custody evaluators, beliefs about domestic abuse allegations, and child custody outcomes in cases involving parental alienation and abuse allegations. Now, therefore, the mayor and the members of the City Council of El Segundo, California, do hereby proclaim the month of November 2023 as Family Court Awareness Month and encourage all residents to support their local communities' efforts to prevent the harm of children in the hands of abusive family members and to honor the value of children. And this is signed by the council. And we're going to have, accepting this proclamation is Sandy Ross, a resident and committee member of the FCAMC.
Thank goodness for that prayer. That prayer was awesome. Thank you very much for issuing the proclamation. This has been the third year that El Segundo has issued one, and I believe you had delivered it to my house during COVID, and that just was amazing to me. I'm here on behalf of California Protective Parents Association. I'm also a survivor and the protective parent of a child survivor. And I'm here to tell you the good news is that on November 13th, Governor Newsom signed a law that requires specific trainings and many of the topics that you mentioned. So there is good news, and that's pretty awesome. This is a topic that's not a very nice topic to talk about, but it needs to be talked about. And I'm here to do that. And I just want to also say the other piece of good news is last year, we confirmed and received 370 proclamations around the country from 29 states. That's huge because it just started with a couple of moms on a mission, really. So I thank you, and I just want to, if I could read this, for anyone who might be dealing with this or know of this issue. I found this picture. It says, what if everything you're going through right now is preparing you for a dream bigger than you can imagine? So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Don't go anywhere.
We're gonna take a picture.
Stand over there with the council. All right. Here we go, guys. A couple of photos here. And one more. Outstanding. Thank you.
All right, next for the El Segundo 14U Eagles softball team, Councilmember Giroux.
All right, this one's special for me. Many of you may or may not know that I was kind of here when you all were formed. And when I say by here, meaning that I was at the Cleveland House during COVID so much that he could have claimed me on his taxes. So it kind of got me through it. So to see where you've all come from where you started is pretty cool. Another little known fact is I've seen exactly 3 of your games, and you're 0-3. So I don't go to any more games at all. But I'm glad that I missed the vast majority of them, or else you probably wouldn't be here. So I'm going to read something that your coach kind of prepared for you here. The El Segundo Eagles softball team was formed out of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. There's an inspiring story of uncertainty, hope, resilience, and ultimately triumph. Since the world was shut down a few years ago, this team competed in over 270 games, traveled over 15,000 miles, played all over the western U.S., including trips to Iowa, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, and all over California, representing our little town of El Segundo the entire way. While most travel teams choose to adopt a generic team name, this group chose to wear the El Segundo on their uniform. The roots of this team began in the El Segundo Girls Softball League. Many of these girls started together when they were 6 or 7 years old. Because they have played together for so long, their bond, both on and off the field, is amazing and one of their biggest competitive advantages. This year was their first year in the 14U division, and the results were incredible. They won several tournaments, but the biggest highlights were as follows. In June, they won the National Softball Association Southern California State Championships with a 6-1 record in the tournament. In July, they traveled to Stockton to compete in the NSA Western National Championships, where they went undefeated and won the championship game 8-7 in a dramatic extra innings walk-off hit. They ended their summer season unbeaten in their last 12 games when it mattered the most. In 2024, the team is expected to play in several other big tournaments, including St. George, Utah, and El Paso, Texas. That's going to be warm. I'm going to tell you that one right now. And then defend their NSA State and Western Nationals championships in July. So again, congratulations to the El Segundo Eagles girls 14U softball team on winning the National Softball Association and Southern California State Championship and the 2023 NSA Western National Championship. So I'm going to announce the girls' names right now, and then I'm going to hand it off to Coach Cleland. So I don't know if you want them to stand up with you, Steve, or just come out, but number 2, Danny Benjamin. Number 3, Maya Bonner. Number 5, Samantha Castillo. Number 7, Maddie Ferrier. Number 9, Ava Waters. Number 10, Kathleen Lane. Number 11, Olivia Galavis. Number 13, Sadie Gramajo. Number 16, Kayla Arroyo. Number 21, Ella Saboski. Number 22, Brooke Engelhart. Number 24, Kat Reed. Number 27, Jazzy Sigaran. Number 73, Grace Linares. And number 99, Layla Pickles Yermian. Head coach, Steve Cleland, Coach Joe Benjamin, and Coach Brian Galavis. All right, Steve, the floor is yours.
Where's mine? Thank you. Yeah, Joe, who's Joe? Oh, there he is. Come on, Joe. All right, girls, I guess you're going to stand there while I talk for a few minutes about you. All right. So when I started coaching this group back in 2019, the goal was to compete in the Western Nationals in 2022. We ended up tying for 9th. And then win it all in 2023. And then, as we all know, in 2020, the pandemic hit. Needless to say, that shook things up a little bit. The Nationals goals would provide us a nice target over the years, but the real goal was always much greater than that. The real goal was to create an experience for the girls, the coaches, and the families that they'll remember for the rest of their lives. When you have such lofty goals, you never know what's going to happen along the way. But here are a few things I know for sure, and I think the council members probably know a few of these. Leadership is never easy. You need a lot of support along the way, and to accomplish great things, you must be prepared to do things that others are not willing to do. And sometimes those things are not going to be popular. But you must keep moving forward. We've experienced some amazing highs like winning the Western Nationals, but we've also worked through some very difficult struggles along the way. Restarting a team in the middle of a worldwide pandemic was not the easiest decision to make, and it certainly was not very popular among some people. However, when you saw the impact of this team on these kids, it became much easier. This team created hope and a sense of normal when both of those were very difficult to find. Even after we got started, problems were thrown at us, it seemed like, on a daily basis, trying to find where to practice, where to play. Rules are changing. Everything was crazy, it just seemed, at all times. As a group, we were forced to stay flexible, nimble, and we just kept moving forward. There are also moments where I needed them. On October 6, 2020, my older sister, Belinda, was murdered. From the day I was born, I wanted to be just like my big sister. Belinda was my hero. And at the lowest moment of my life, these girls, this team, helped me get through something that nobody should ever face. I remember back September 26, 2021. We were about to start the final day of a big double elimination tournament in St. George, Utah. I was struggling. I pulled off to the side of the road. It was probably 6 in the morning. And I just sat there, tears in my eyes, sad, devastated, and really not sure if I was able to face the day ahead. And then I got a text from one of the parents that just said, let's do this. And it may seem small to everybody here, but in that moment, it meant a lot. It was enough to keep me moving forward. I put the car in drive, got to the field, and the El Segundo Eagles went on to play 7 games that day, starting at 7 in the morning, and then won the championship that night just after midnight. It was pretty awesome. So it's quite an understatement to say that we've been through a lot. We've also accomplished things that most softball players and teams can only dream of doing. And we are living proof that when you keep an amazing group of players, parents, and coaches together, and then give those players the opportunity to make mistakes, learn, and develop that go-forward attitude, amazing things can happen. Winning the Western Nationals and many other tournaments over the years was a lot of fun, and I'm just so grateful to be the leader of this group. In the end, we created a journey that will be part of these girls' lives for the rest of their lives, and that made all the tough decisions and the hard work worth it. Finally, I just want to say, as Lance mentioned, we're so proud to have El Segundo on our uniforms and have done so from day one. It means a lot to us, and we just want to thank the council, our community, and El Segundo Girls Softball for helping create that journey and helping us accomplish so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
I'm going to try to fit everybody in. We got a coach on each side, maybe? Yeah. Council members. Make sure I see you guys. All right. Let's see what we can do here. Let's see what we can do here. All right, let's see those beautiful certificates there. All right, do I see everybody? This young lady, okay. Oh, I don't see this young lady right there.
You're doing showing the rings, Steve.
The rings.
Show the rings.
Yes. Thank you. Are you good? All right, let's see if I see everybody. Okay, I think I see. Oh. All
Show
right,
the ring.
here we go.
Look at this camera, the big one.
The big one,
Yes.
not
Ready,
yours.
guys? 1, 2, and 3.
Eyes
And
open.
a couple more.
Eyes open, yeah. Don't look at
And yeah, that's what I'm going to try to take a whole bunch to make sure you get some blinks out of there. All right, thank you so much. Now maybe for the parents.
Oh, parents. Show the ring. Show the ring. 1.
1, 2, 3.
All right.
Thank you, ladies.
We're the city champions. We love you.
You don't want to stay for the meeting about I want to see your phone. But we're going to talk about retrofitting. You don't want to stay for that?
Next, we have Spark of Love from Councilmember Baldino.
All right, I'm happy to present the following proclamation from your El Segundo City Council. Whereas, in an effort to provide for children who otherwise might not experience the joy of the holiday season, the City of El Segundo Fire Department along with our other Southland Fire agencies, has participated in the Spark of Love program for the past 30 years and has collected toys and food items donated during the holidays. And whereas the ever upward spiraling cost of living burdens disadvantaged and displaced families who may not be able to give gifts during the holiday season without help from the Spark of Love program, and whereas the true holiday spirit is reflected in unselfish giving and our thoughts and hearts go out to those less fortunate than ourselves, and whereas in the past, with the help of civic-minded citizens who live and work in our community, hundreds of toys plus food items have been collected and distributed to children and families in El Segundo and other South Bay cities. Now, therefore, the mayor and the members of City Council of the City of El Segundo, California, do hereby proclaim November 13th, 2023 through December 14th, 2023 as the Spark of Love Toy Drive. The community is encouraged to support this holiday program by contributing toys and non-perishable food to the El Segundo Fire Department Station Number 1 at 314 Main Street during the period of November 13th through December 14th, 2023. And we have here to accept this proclamation our own Battalion Chief, Casey Snow.
All right, good evening. Thank you. We're very happy to be part of this program, very proud to be part of this program. The biggest thing, I think we've got a big goal this year, and we're going to try to beat last year. We set a record of 4,500 toys that were collected. So that's a pretty good number, and we're looking to get at least 5,000 this year. So thank you, and we're honored to be part of the program.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
All right.
We got a picture.
Oh, go ahead. All right. That'd be great. Excellent. Thank you so much. Very good. Here we go. And a couple of photos. And one more. Thank you so much. Thank you. 5,000 would be great.
How many orcs?
All right, thank you. Now we are on to public communication. Madam Clerk, do we have people here for public communication? What's the estimated total? All right, we have 30 minutes allocated to public comments. So with 13 comments, we're going to give everybody 2 minutes, probably about 2 minutes and 10 seconds, depending on what the Russian judge says. All right, very well. Off we go.
All right, first up is Tony Barraza.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tony Barraza. I was here 2-3 weeks ago, and I just wanted to come in and thank you all for all your time and help and support you've done, city council members, stuff, and more than anything, my community, all my senior citizens from El Segundo that I'm being so proud for the last 35 years to help out, and they help me out. And I just want to say thank you for everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barraza.
Margie Liahi, if I did that right, sorry.
It's Leahy. I'm Margie Leahy. I live at 765 Washington Street, near the intersection.
Ma'am, could you speak into the microphone, please?
I'm sorry? This?
Yeah.
It's near the intersection of Maple and Washington, and I'm here because of the notice in the Herald about permanently regulating home sharing. And
For
There-
one moment, ma'am, we have a public hearing on that coming up. So if we have public comments pertaining to the public hearing, we'll take them right before we have that hearing. So we'll have a public comment period during that. So would you mind holding your comment till we address that item?
so when would that be?
That is item, I think 11?
11.
That is item 11.
So I have to be here till,
I mean, if you want-
You can give your comment now. It's just more pertinent then, but
okay.
if anyone else has public comments on home sharing or any more of those, okay, go right ahead, Ms. Leahy.
Okay, so, the reason I'm here is because of this, the home sharing program. And I know there's already some going on in town. I know some of it, I went online and I looked up what El Segundo's requirements are. And part of it says that it is only for home sharing, which is defined as renting for a period of 30 consecutive days or less, while the host lives on site in the dwelling unit throughout the transient user's stay. And it says that more than once. It says single-family homes that are owner-occupied. It also says for a property that qualify, the owner must live in the dwelling 183 days out of the year. And there's more in here. And by happenstance, we found out that the owner of this property lives in Tucson, Arizona. And we know that people have already been living in that property. The other thing is one of the El Segundo requirements is that every room has to have a designated parking space. I know the people that originally owned that property, and I know it was originally 5 bedrooms, 3 baths. I've been told it's now 7 bedrooms, 4 baths. And the garage has been finished so it can't be used for parking anymore. So we only have 2 parking spaces on the driveway. So that means, where is the owner providing the other 5 parking spaces? These are just some of the things we've noticed. And I appreciate you all really looking into this. And we know that's a part of life, and everybody's property is their own.
Time's
But
up.
we're hoping that we, the property taxpayers and the existing residents and homeowners, our considerations are also part of what you all consider in this program. And of course, we are directly being impacted by that
Ms.
house
Leahy,
right
we're
now
time.
on the corner. And we realize it's part of life, but we're really hoping that you take into consideration ours. That area is already inundated.
Ms. Leahy, we're at time. You're over 2 minutes, I'm sorry. But thank you very much for your comment. Next, please.
Bradford Stone.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. Representing Bradford Zone. I'm representing the Park Vista Senior Living in an effort to rekindle what was at one time prior to COVID an annual event of over 15 years. I've been a resident there for around approximately 18 months. And I'm before you now trying to see if we can get approval from you in order to get approval from the board next month to have that reinstated as an annual event. I was led to believe that there were some liabilities involved that the city council was concerned about, and I was curious on the liability insurance that I'm sure the city has, let alone Park Vista, the building, and how we could overcome that in order to accommodate having that reinstated as an annual event, both for the community as well as for the 20-plus residents that I have already petitioned out of 96 units there. That's basically it in a nutshell.
If I may, what's the event?
A yard sale.
Oh, yard sale.
doesn't sound like a very important thing, but it is to a lot of the residents there.
Thank you, Mr. Stone.
All right.
I'm sorry, Tracy Miller, Sarnke.
Sorry, I was sitting in the back corner. I can't hear all the way back there.
I didn't have my mic on, sorry.
That's okay. So, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members and staff and everyone watching here or from home. My name is Tracy Miller Zarnicki. I am here tonight wearing my Environmental Committee Chairperson's cap. Just a few quick comments. Firstly, to express our committee's support for item D15 on your agenda. Establishing the role of an environmental programs manager is something we have been advocating for 6 years plus or minus. So I just want to say I hope tonight's vote brings that to fruition. While we have been ever grateful to finally have in the public works role someone, an ally in this eco effort as much as Elias has been, he's literally too busy to do all the things that we need to do in this town. So I just want to say that we're hopeful that this additional staff person, under his guidance and inspiration, can make for even more positive change in the creation of a healthier, more sustainable El Segundo for now and the future. Secondly, I just want to thank you for your well-spent commitment with working with the COG, because through that partnership, our committee has been honored to help make some great green things happen here in El Segundo, including the California Green Business Network, and as you all know, the local travel network last week. These are great efforts that, again, collaboration makes better. And finally, I want to express my gratitude for your appointing some truly amazing new members for our committee earlier this year. They've been diving into a variety of topics, one of which you'll hear about tonight through Dr. Stenstrom, including that being Hyperion, the potential conversion of Scattergood to a hydrogen facility, the water conservation efforts with West Basin, and even supporting the El Segundo blue butterfly through the expansion of native plantings. We're doing a lot of stuff, but back to my original point, I'm excited for what more we can do if we have this environmental programs manager in place to help us make more headway faster. So thank you again for listening. Thank you for all you do. We'll see you another time.
Thank you, Ms. Miller Zarnicki.
Chelsea Moto?
Hi, everybody. My name is Chelsea Motal. Is this too close? My name is Chelsea Motal. I am an El Segundo resident and mom of two. We live across the street from Purple Park. I'm here on behalf of hundreds of residents, community members, and neighbors who are very concerned about the 6-story, 323-unit apartment building proposed for Holly, Kansas, and Grand, alongside 1 to 2-story houses and the adjacent park. We're not just concerned for the lot itself, we are concerned about the precedent that it will set for all of El Segundo residences and future buildings that will be built, especially under the pressures of California mandates, right? There's a groundswell around this. There are a lot of people talking about this, and so we are hosting, and I'm formally inviting you to a community meeting. That community meeting will take place on December 4th, Monday at 6:30. We're calling it Small Town, Big Buildings, Let's Get It Right, and we hope that you will join us. We will be also inviting our esteemed city planning, school board, and of course the developers themselves, so we can have a formal conversation about it. I will leave behind these flyers, and I hope you can join, because what we want to do is we want to really discuss what is best to maintain the congruity and consistency of this town and its legacy, something you guys work very hard on, and we so appreciate that. So we hope you'll join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Motel.
Ron Schendel?
Good evening. Thank you. I'm just here to support Tony and getting high-tech transmission back working. I see that, I'm sorry? Anyways, I don't want to take too much of your time. I see that the recommendation is to waive the reading, and he's doing a great job, a great asset to the community, and let's get him back to work.
Thank you, Ron. If I can ask if we can please hold the applause during public comment.
Lorraine Brown?
Hi, everybody. I was here, my name is Lorraine Brown, and I was here 3 weeks ago supporting Tony. But today, it's for the Park Vista yard sales. I've lived at Park Vista for 20 years, and I started about 15 years ago to do the yard sales. I do know how to do them. I taught the president of the League of Women Voters how to do them, so I know how to do them. Anyway, we have them every year, and then when COVID hit, I was in the hospital for 53 days with COVID, plus I ended up with a lot of other things. So I was on oxygen for 2 years, and when I finally got off oxygen about 4 months ago, 4 people came up to me and said, please, can we have a yard sale? And I didn't know if I was up to it, but I put myself into it and did the whole thing, and I pay for all the signage and all the other stuff. To make a long story short, we put on a yard sale. We had 12 tables. We had it all set up. Different people did social media. And the night before, Neil Cadman found on Facebook the advertisement, and he said, who told you you could do that? I always get permission from Teresa, always. And I always have a table right by the door. Nobody ever gets into the building, except one little kid had to go to the bathroom once, and I let he and his mother in. But no early birds. They open the gates at the park side to go into the garden area. Everybody stays on the pavement. Nobody's allowed on the grass with dips and everything. And we're very responsible. We've been doing it for years. Mary Jane Clutter, whose husband was a councilman at one point in time, said that they've been doing it for the 36 years that the Park Vista's been open. So please, can we have another yard sale?
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Anya Goldstein?
Hi, everyone. My name is Anya Goldstein. I'm a 10-year resident of El Segundo and a lawyer and a member of Sea Change. I'm here today to urge you not to join the lawsuit challenging LA Superior Court's new bail policy. You've received very thorough materials with citations to evidence. I'm not going to go through any of that stuff now, though I have it if anyone didn't have it in their emails. But given that I'm here to speak to you live, I just wanted to talk about some of the major points. First, keeping someone in custody between arrest and arraignment, which is all this policy is not about punishment for crime. Punishment for crime is what happens after you've been convicted. So this policy, it's not about whether people are being punished or not. Under money bail, it isn't that all arrestees, whether they're dangerous or not, are kept in jail. On the contrary, it's people who can pay are released and people who cannot pay who are held in jail. That, on its face, is morally repugnant. It doesn't enhance public safety, and it does not keep us safe. And this policy, of course, does not actually eliminate money bail. Money bail can still be set by a judge for any case after arraignment. It's only about that period between arrest and arraignment. Third, LA Superior Court's new policy is based on years of data that shows that reforms like this are not linked to an increase in either violent nor nonviolent crime, nor higher rearrest rates.
Assertions to the contrary are, I think, largely just fearful. Some are fear-mongering, but this is not, there's no evidence that money bail keeps us safer. This may be counterintuitive, but 24 hours in jail is so destabilizing that it makes someone significantly more likely to be arrested again, to be kept in jail for that period. The policy has gone well for its first month. The data shows no higher rearrest rates than previously, and both Sheriff Luna and LAPD Chief Michael Moore have made statements that have also been emailed to you, agreeing that the policy appears to be working well so far and has not hampered law enforcement. Given all this, attacking the new bail reform is security theater. It's meant to make the public think that you're promoting public safety while ignoring the evidence. And finally, as I'm sure Joaquin will explain to you, the lawsuit is a loser. The Superior Court is required to make a bail policy every year. And so I urge you to not vote to join the lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goldstein.
Nate Papalardo?
You got it right. Hello, I am also a resident of El Segundo, and I am also here to speak in,
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Oh, Nathan Papalardo. I'm also here to advocate that the council not join the lawsuit against the no bail policy. Like has already been said, this is a lawsuit not based in data. No bail policies have not increased crime, and quite frankly, it's a more compassionate policy to not require people to be jailed before being found guilty of a crime and requiring them to pay money to leave that situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Papalardo.
Janet Asani?
Hello. My name is Janet Asante, and I'm also a resident here in El Segundo. And I'm also here to urge the council not to join the lawsuit against the pre-arraignment release protocols, also known as zero bail. I was actually present during some of the court hearings that took place, which caused LA County to put this policy in place. And what you'll find if you read the preliminary injunction that Judge Riff put forth is that the current or the past bail schedule is criminogenic, which means that it causes crime. And I think some of the previous speakers have touched on that, but it's truly destabilizing to folks who are, in many cases, not guilty, but also it's wealth-based detention. It's not based on risk. It's not based on public safety. It's purely based on if you have money, you get out, and if you don't, then you get all of these harms attached, like missing funerals, missing birthdays, not being able to take care of your children, maybe even losing your job, which then, again, criminogenic leads to more crime. And you know, I'm not sure who brought this to the city of El Segundo to join, but I'd encourage you to look into whatever their interests are, and also to look into the data that has been provided to you. I think it's very great that you all have been provided data. If you look at what the LA Superior Court put forth last Monday, which is a report and also a press conference, which you can find on their YouTube channel, just really detailing the data that came out of that first month of PARP, also known as zero bail. I also want to point out that the zero bail policy does not apply to all charges. There's still magistrate review. Any judge and any officer, whether that's LASD or El Segundo, still has the ability to bring caution to someone and you know, ask for bail or recommend bail in these cases. I know there has been a lot of fear mongering, and I know that the news reports are not always factual. And so that's why I come here before you today. I don't live in Santa Monica. I don't live in any of these other cities that have joined the lawsuit. I live here, and I don't want my tax dollars going to join a frivolous lawsuit that honestly isn't even written well. If you're an attorney, you should also take a look at it. But yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Sante.
Graham Gilman?
Hi, my name is Graham Gilman. I'm also a resident of El Segundo. I'm also here to encourage you all to not join the lawsuit against Zero Bell and to simply not just reiterate Janet or Anya's talking points. I am actually going to read directly from some of this material, particularly the news release put out by the LA Superior Court regarding Zero Bell. This was last Monday. The title of the release is Early Data Reveals Significant Public Safety Benefits of New Los Angeles County Pre-Arraignment Release Protocols. The preliminary PARP report released today demonstrates the undeniable public safety benefits of utilizing individualized risk determinations to assess conditions of release, as opposed to basing conditions of release solely on an arrested individual's ability to pay traditional money bail, said presiding Judge Dester. This new system is working exactly the way that it was intended. The vast majority of those determined by a magistrate to be a significant risk to public and victim safety or significant flight risk are being temporarily held in jail prior to arraignment, while the vast majority of those who pose little risk to public or victim safety are likely to return to court are being released with non-financial conditions. Under the previous money bail system, these same high-risk individuals would be able to buy their release from jail if they had access to money, and the low-risk individuals will remain in jail for days, weeks, months, or even years if they did not have access to money to purchase their release. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Gilman.
That is all the cards I have. Apparently I can't count.
All right. City Manager, follow-up comments.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, I at least following up on public comments, as you know, a number of the items, the home sharing item, environmental service manager support item, the number of comments on the no cash bail lawsuit, all those items will be coming up on the agenda for discussion. The other item,
If I may, Ms. Leahy's item about a code, that was a very specific code enforcement issue, so we may want to reach out to her to find out
Yes,
the address if we would need to look into that.
yes, on that one, then also on the yard sale item, Park Vista yard sales, I'll follow up with staff on that item also.
Thank you.
And I'll provide my report on Hyperion. Okay, as I do every council meeting, I provide the council and the community an update, kind of a status report on what has happened since our last meeting related to the Hyperion Water Treatment Plant. On October 30th, as was stated previously, the Environmental Committee, along with Dr. Stenstrom, attended a productive tour of the Hyperion facility, where they were provided further understanding of the primary tank stages, recent facility improvements, and the overall process. Very productive tour of the site, and Dr. Stenstrom, I'm going to have him come up for a few minutes after my remarks to show you some slides from that visit. Also happy to say we've been working on and finally have been able to identify, this was as a result of our Hyperion Ad Hoc Committee, providing of a town hall meeting, which is tentatively now scheduled with being led by AQMD. We'll have 3 senior department heads from AQMD that will lead the discussion during this town hall, and it'll be via Zoom, and information will be coming out to the community on this, but it's tentatively scheduled for December 6th at 6 p.m. So this is really going to be an opportunity for people to ask questions about Hyperion, hear more about AQMD's efforts to monitor the situation, and then really what's behind, as you know, the bill AB 1216 that was recently passed and signed by the governor. What's in the bill and how will that bill be overseen moving forward. So that'll be a very informative town hall meeting. Speaking of AQMD, they did respond to approximately 60 odor complaints in the past 2 weeks, but there was no public nuisance found on any of those on any given day. City staff, along with Councilmember Perstick, as well as Ad Hoc Committee member Tracy Miller-Zarnicki, attended a virtual Hyperion Citizens Forum on October 26th. which was very informative, and Councilmember, thank you for attending that. Hyperion has, this is interesting, Hyperion now has agreed to host the next Hyperion Citizens Forum in person, which is a first. I think that's going to be, it's pretty telling of them to do this in person. It'll actually be held at our own library, El Segundo Public Library, on January 18th. We'll share all the details, full details about this as soon as it's finalized, but that next forum will be in person. Hyperion does continue to the replacement of tank covers for batteries C and B. That's expected to be completed in December, next month. And battery D is expected to be completed by the end of June 2024. So things are moving along on those tank covers. And then finally, we continue to work with Dr. Stenstrom on verifying the status of the 33 recommendations that were outlined in the ad hoc committee report that came out about a year and a half ago. We're in the process of creating a digital dashboard that will help summarize the status of those 33 recommendations for the public. We're hoping to have this dashboard launched before the town hall meeting. So that'll be part of the town hall. We can let the community know that this, get on our website, hit a button, and you'll be able to know where all of those 33 recommendations, the status of them, have they been completed, are they ongoing, and so forth. So if I can ask the council, if I can have Dr. Stenstrom come up, spend a few minutes to share a little bit of the tour that he went on with the environmental committee, and offer a few words.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's a rare opportunity for me to see democracy in action, so I appreciate being here. And I'm going to show some slides of pictures I took during the tour, and you heard from one of the environmental committee members about the tour already. But this is the group that did the tour, and you see we're here in front of the one of the new digesters. The tour lasted about 2 hours. About half of it was inside, half of it was at the plant. And Hyperion has a learning center that was created for education from school kids to professors and engineers. And so the first half of the tour was conducted here. You see Tim DeFita and Hai-Sung Kim with his back to us, who are the two sort of working managers at Hyperion. And they explained mostly the headworks and spent a little time about what's going to happen as the plant evolves to become a water reclamation plant. So they have a nice diagram. It shows a lot of the things that they do. This is the group looking at the diagram. And here's another picture of them observing. And I included this one because the structure at the back, the circular structure, is the same size as some of the pipes going to Hyperion. So it gives you an idea of what comes down the pipe. And it's typical at treatment plants to have all manner of things come down sewers. And so that's why they have bar screens and other things up front to protect the plant. So this is a diagram I did for the report that was written, and I included it here just to show where we toured. We started with the bar screens. We started walking north, and we passed different things on the way, and as I present this, I'm going to present it as the flow of the water. So we toured the bar screen buildings where the flood occurred and the damage occurred. We looked briefly at the grit chambers as we walked by them. We spent a lot of time walking by the primary clarifiers, and we saw the new covers. And then we went up to the top of the hill bordering El Segundo to look at the monitoring facilities. So the bar screens are there. They're continuing to be upgraded and maintained. Bar screens are high maintenance devices. And one thing that came out in the hearings that we had before is that these bar screens were purchased on a special sole source purchase order because they wanted better bar screens than they could obtain with the low bid. And so you see this is the front of it, and here the back of it. And that's one of our members looking at the back. And there's 8 of them, and if you go back and look at some of the pictures in the earlier report, you'll see that this whole area was covered with litter and screenings. And at the worst of the flood, it was under about 2 feet of water. And that really prevented them from getting in there and trying to control the flood. Here's one of the bar screens that's being maintained. You can see the teeth there to support the bars. And this is one of the members looking at the trough that takes away the bar screens, the screenings. And this is really where the fault occurred when the flood. Downstream a little bit of where she's standing, the screenings tumble into 3 down pipes to go to grinder pumps. And the grinder pumps failed, which caused the screenings to no longer be removed, and they were recycled, which eventually clogged the screens. So from there, we went to the deck where the primary clarifiers are. Primary clarifiers are traditional at basically 99% of the wastewater treatment plants. And they remove material by sedimentation. And there's no aeration, so they're anaerobic, and therefore they have odors. So it's traditional in California to cover primary clarifiers. And sometimes they're just covered. Most of the time, they have some sort of odor control facility. And so this is one of the covers that is concrete cover, and you still need access to it. So the yellow stakes there guard a access hole. And the white pipes you see are the foul gas pipes. Because the way these things operate is they pull a slight vacuum in the buildings where odors are created and under the covers of the primary clarifiers. And that causes the flow of air to go to a treatment system as opposed to the environment. And so those big white pipes you see are the foul odor pipes. And they're rather large and complicated. Fortunately, air is light, so they can be of fiberglass. And so one important thing when maintaining a treatment plant, especially a big one like Hyperion, is that when you do maintenance, you use temporary covers. And this was an example I saw where they had removed these materials as part of the construction project, and you can see they put a tarpaulin over the open areas. And this is a picture from on high of C&D. And you can see the covers in the distance. This is a blow-up of aluminum covers. They're laid down, they're about 3 feet wide by 20 feet long, depending on the treatment plant. Tillman has similar covers, and these are being replaced. And my best understanding is they're not being replaced because they're old and decrepit. They're being replaced because the mechanisms of the primary clarifier have to be maintained, so it has to be opened up and the covers removed. And so the city has elected not to put back the old covers, but to put back new covers. And part of their delay is the availability of material. That's what we were told. And so all of the off gases go to a collection of towers like this, which treat the odorous gases and in theory oxidize them or adsorb them. This is an area of research at treatment plants. Hydrogen sulfide is the main problem, but we're discovering even after hydrogen sulfide is removed that there are still some odorous compounds. Not as bad, but perhaps long-lived. And this is a picture of the covers that have been removed. And if you get close to it and look at it, you can see there's lots of corrosion problems, which probably supported their decision to not reuse them. this is a view from up high that tells you how big the plant is. It's 144 acres. This was taken from the El Segundo Hyperion property line where we have the monitor. And this is a picture of an observation port inside those scrubbers. And you can see there's lots of interesting shapes there that promote contact between gases and water. And this is the new monitoring area that we work so hard to get into law. And it's up next to the property line. It's next to another monitoring facility for weather. And you can see there's the group inspecting it. And one of the things that I want to do, I haven't been able to get the real-time reports on odor, but I would like to see if we can correlate the odor complaints to things happening. Now, there was some discussion about odors occurring at night and people suspecting that maybe the odorous activities were done at night in order to hide them. And the plant response to that is that the offshore winds change directions at night, and that they think that the odors are associated with wind directions that go directly to El Segundo. So I'm hoping we can work on that. The other thing I can say is that sewage flows 24 hours a day, but it flows less at night because of people's schedules. Therefore, the time of travel from the generation of the wastewater to the treatment plant is much longer at night, perhaps twice as long. And that gives opportunity for the production of more odorous materials. And in my youth, I used to run a little bit in the evening in my old neighborhood, and you could always tell when you were over a manhole at night because of the difference in odors. So another picture of the former equipment. So that's my report. I'll be glad to take any questions, and I'll also be glad to work with individuals if they have specific things they want to say offline.
Thank you, Dr. Stenstrom. Any council questions for Dr. Stenstrom?
No questions. I just wanted to thank you. Your level of expertise gives us a sense of reassurance when we're dealing with the folks at Hyperion, especially their engineers. And so it's nice to have someone with your education and background to help translate some of this and help us, maintain oversight to make sure that Hyperion holds up to their commitments to fix the problems over there. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, well, that I'm grateful for your appreciation there. Yeah, I think they know that I understand everything about their treatment plant. And I'd like to say that it seemed to me like that the attitude of the two managers was better at this tour than it has been previously.
Fantastic to hear.
Any other questions? Dr. Stenstrom, before you
I just wanted to
before
say
you flee
one
on
thing.
foot, we've got a couple questions.
Oh, so I just wanted to say thank you, and I just, the communication flow between Hyperion and the city of El Segundo and the city of Los Angeles has really expanded. And I just want to thank you for bringing the expertise, and know that I know we had started off, I think it was 31 items of things to fix, but a couple things have been added. So it's ongoing, as we see additional things that need to be fixed through your expertise, we're adding them to the list. And I think once we get the dashboard up, people can see all those things being improved and track them. And we want full transparencies for everybody to see the progress we're making.
Well, yes. The original items were related to safety and not so much to odor production, although some of them bore very strongly on odor production. And I didn't point it out, but a number of the things that were recommended have been fixed. And they are about halfway through the process of building a bypass of the screens that would not require human interaction to activate. And so that was my most important recommendation, to make sure that there was never a flood like this in the future.
Before you get to Mr. Stenstrom, I have two quick questions for you. Dr. Stenstrom, they added the cameras and alarm systems, and presumably that goes to a monitoring center in the control room. Were you able to observe that?
Yes. They added several different cameras, and one of the key problems that existed before was that the alarm was just a printout on a computer screen. And so now they have enunciators that are loud and flashing lights and so forth that they can't ignore. But you see in the back there, this is a, I can't point to it, but this is a camera that, one of many cameras that displays all of the things in the headworks. And this camera would have shown the problem before.
I think before they said that they had enunciators going off, but they didn't have anyone to respond to them.
Yeah.
Did they speak to their manpower issues? Because it's obviously a job that's difficult to keep staffed.
Yes.
You and I have both been there. It's not the world's.
They told me that they've increased the staffing. This is not the most fun place to work at Hyperion, but that they have increased staff. And in my investigation, I did not look at what staff should have been there that weren't there. I left that to their management, but it was pretty obvious to me that during that Sunday afternoon, there was an absence of staff.
I think the report pointed to that, and I'm sure that they wouldn't necessarily get into their staffing program in a tour, but that those should be public documents. And if we see that they have a continual turnover issue, you can put as many cameras as you want if no one's watching them.
Right. Well, the nice thing about these is they go back to the main control room, which is 24 hours per day with a bunch of screen. It sort of looks like the bridge of the Enterprise with all the screens.
And then I believe it hasn't happened yet, but they're doing a mock emergency inviting all the different municipalities and agencies to come, so to ensure that the communication lines are open for everybody and they know what to do in case there's emergency.
Yeah, that's one of the recommendations, which was not my primary recommendation, but one that I certainly supported, was to rework the communication links with the various other agencies, such as the Department of Public Health. So I think that's been done.
Anything further? Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Any questions on the Park Vista items or any of the public comments for the city manager?
No, nothing else, Mayor Pro Tem.
Very well. I will entertain a procedural motion to read all ordinances and resolutions by agenda and title only.
So moved.
Persick, second.
All in favor? Aye. Very well. The consent agenda, do we have any pulls? Nope. I'd like to pull item 7. But may I have a motion to approve all consent items less item 7?
So moved.
Baldino, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 7 is the California Office of Traffic Safety Selective Traffic Enforcement Program. This is accepting a grant. Is the chief here?
Yes, he is on his way in right now, Mayor Pro Tem.
The reason I pulled this item, we'll wait for the chief to get here, is this has several items that the $70,000 funds. Among them are traffic checkpoints. My question for the chief, Chief, this is largely about drug driving. We've seen about a 17% increase in traffic deaths since we went with recreational cannabis. Correlation is not causation, but it is very difficult to prove drugged driving. So one of my questions is, in the stipulated items that we can use this grant for, is there any of it that we can use to try and develop any sort of testing procedure around drug driving? So a lot of this calls for targeted enforcement on individuals who have prior DUIs or suspected of drug driving, but I'm just curious, this initiatives to attach people driving high failed miserably at the state legislature level. I just know if there's anything we can do locally, because 4,000 traffic deaths additional over a 3-year span is a lot of people.
Yeah, the drug driving, you are correct. It's very difficult to determine that out in the field. There hasn't really been a test that's been developed that is accepted by the DA's office. So we have to do a blood test. But on something like that, we can take this back and talk to the DA's office and see how we can be part of a more of a regional approach on how we can develop tests so that we can do that out in the field.
Yeah, it just seemed to me it's very prescriptive. It seemed a little bit templated, and I thought if that's an issue that is emergent, if we could be creative with the funding. But if it's laid out there, I would encourage us to have a conversation with the DA's office about how we can use it differently. And those, it seems to be a little bit of a little bit of wiggle room in those checkpoints, the checkpoint funding. Again, I'm not telling you how to peel grapes, but it just stood out to me as an opportunity, given what an issue it seems to be.
Sure.
Thank you, Chief. All
Thank
right,
you.
I will move approval to item 7, California Office of Traffic Safety Selective Traffic Enforcement Program for a $70,000 grant.
First, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may.
Sir.
Just wanted to note for the city clerk for item B6, for the record, if we can reflect the, Baldino's recusal based on the hearing prior to the public hearing for the first reading. Thank you.
Do we need to re-vote on that?
That's not necessary.
We'll just
Had it been
omit.
pulled, I would have stepped out, but it being on consent, I really had no comments to make one way or another.
I will direct Public Works to put in my Baldino mute button so I can mute his inopportune, and I will use this as an opportunity to dissolve this parliament and convene a constitutional body. We'll have a new flag, new hats, new name, everything. Moving through this, we are going to take item 13, and item 13 is going to be postponed to the next council meeting. Is that, do we have to vote on that, or we can just direct that? Okay, so item 13, we'll move on to that, and we will move on to our public hearing. All right, Madam Clerk, does the time and place heretofore fixed for a public hearing, was proper notice of the hearing given in a timely manner?
Yes, it was.
City Clerk, has any written communication been received regarding this public hearing, noting the comment by Ms. Leahy earlier?
So, no public comment has been received recently for this item, but as you know, in the past, we have received public comment.
Very well. The public hearing is now open. Mr. George, who will make the presentation?
Eduardo from our Community Development Department.
All right, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be back before the council again. So to provide a little bit of history, as you may all recall, this short-term home sharing process started back with back in October 2021 with the inception of the pilot program. And staff commenced by issuing home share permits and monitoring them to determine if ultimately the use of home sharing would be appropriate over the long term in residential zones. We as staff came before the Planning Commission near the end of last year and ultimately here to the council near the end of that pilot program, which was set at that time to expire at the end of 2022, with the recommendation to allow the home sharing through a home sharing permit process. The council at that time decided to extend the pilot program for a variety of reasons, but we were just coming out of some of the COVID regulations and restrictions. We wanted to see how the travel industry kind of rebounded and how the hotel industry and ultimately that industry prevailed over the next 12 months. And also, I think that the biggest point was to also allow staff to come up with solutions to eliminate violations and illegal listings on various platforms. So by last November, there were 20 home share permits that were issued. Since the extension of the pilot program, we have approved another 4, so there are a total of 24 home share permits. I will note that staff has denied 1 application. Now, since the inception, there has been a steady decline in unpermitted listings of short-term rentals. Most notably this year, in response to the staff, to council's direction to come up with solutions, staff developed a partnership with Airbnb, who developed a portal that identifies listings in El Segundo, and it gives staff the ability to block unpermitted or illegal listings. So that's huge because it kind of puts us in the driver's seat. The only thing is that we do have to monitor those, which we have, as staff, made it a practice to monitor those on a weekly, if not almost daily basis. So anyhow, but staff has blocked a number of listings for advertising violations, but has found that once those are corrected, they are allowed to then relist on the Airbnb site. Now, as indicated earlier, there are a total of 24 home share permits. Now, being only 24, one would conclude that there would be only 24 listings out there on these platforms, but the reality is that there's many other advertisements with listings by hotels. There's also listings that are for long-term stays that require a minimum of 31 days. Now, with regards to the hotel, I mean, that's part of the business model. You know, that's something that, you know, they're in the business for short term. So there's no violation there because, again, this is something that was done in partnership or with regards to home sharing within residential neighborhoods. And these hotels are not in residential neighborhoods. But more pointed towards what you see out there on these websites, you'll see a lot of listings, and at first glance, it's like, whoa, wait a minute, you know, we do have a lot of short-term rentals in El Segundo, but a deeper dive into those, you'll find that they are typically for long-term stays, so 31 days or more. One would also think that, okay, well, you can kind of skirt the system by going in there and just putting in a shorter time frame, but at least Airbnb, you know, and even VRBO, who specializes in long-term or short-term stays, if you go in there and you actually put in a date range that is less than 31 days, it won't allow you to proceed. So that is something that's huge, where, you know, that is kind of a self-regulating model, that even though these listings are out there and you'll see them, and at first glance, once you try to actually implement a short-term stay that's less than 31 days, it won't allow you to continue. So that's a good thing. So anyhow, but that being stated, those that are 31 days or more, those are considered legal listings because you can't book for anything shorter than 31 days. Another way that it becomes kind of a disincentive is that as a bookie, well, I know. Should I say booking? As a person who's booking the site, booking a place, if they try to say, okay, you know what, I'm going to do the 31 days, and then, you know, maybe the listing person will be okay with me, you know, only being there for 10 days. The thing is that you have to actually pay up front. So if you are a person who has the, you know, means to just go ahead and pay a full month at the nightly rate, I mean, that's a whole lot of money that you're going to have to put up front, with the unlikely or the unknown possibility of whether you're going to get some of that money back for having stayed short or less than 31 days. So again, that's a disincentive. So anyhow, so as I indicated earlier, staff regularly monitors for listings on various online platforms, and will continue to use the Airbnb portal. We will also work with other platforms as that type of offering becomes available for other portals. As I indicated earlier, VRBO, they specialize in whole house. So if something pops up on that particular website, you know, that's obviously a red flag for us to investigate that even more and closely scrutinize that and take appropriate action, because again, they specialize in whole house, and this program is not designated or designed for a whole house situation. Again, if the council recalls, the whole point of this was to ensure that the property owner is on site, and that way that minimizes a lot of the impacts and the potential party situations and impacts to the other neighbors that have resulted when there's an absentee landlord for these types of uses. So therefore, through the use of the portal and working with other platforms to develop similar portals for staff, constant monitoring and taking appropriate actions and updating the proposed ordinance, as you'll see before you, or as you've seen before you, which includes language that the city has administrative subpoena powers. Staff believes violations and illegal listings will be minimal, and therefore staff recommends adopting the ordinance to allow permanent regulation of short-term home sharing through a permit process. That concludes my presentation.
All right, the public hearing is now open for public input. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Baldino seconds.
All in favor? Aye. All right, council discussion.
Thank you, Eduardo. Were you here earlier? Ms. Leahy had a code compliant issue about a certain residence. She gave the address. I'm sure Daryl can let you know. But I wanted to ask, early in the program, did the city have an outside agency that was kind of doing the monitoring of compliance? And have we now gone in-house with that?
Yes, we did have a contract that was a cost to the city, which I think upfront was probably money well spent, but ultimately in the long run, with the likes of Airbnb, offering portals and we do foresee other platforms offering that. We just found that it wasn't cost effective to continue using that service for what they were providing.
Because of the arrangement you have with Airbnb, we're able to use our own staff to monitor compliance. And so that we're actually recouping, it looks like $147,000 when you count the TOT tax plus the permits from this pilot program so far.
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
Eduardo, I just have a question. So for the how much does the permit cost?
So the permit cost is $109 for the actual business license, and then another 120-ish for the actual short-term permit itself. So runs about $250 total.
So I asked that because with the new business license fees that are going into effect January 1st, the cost of running a business now is going to up to $150. And then with hotels, we're charging $150 per door. So how is that going to work, and how's that going to translate to the short-term rental? So if you have multiple rentals in your home share, say you're sharing 3 bedrooms, are we charging per door like we're doing the hotels, or are we just keeping it a base fee?
I would envision, we'll have to reach out or coordinate with our finance folks, but I would envision that it would be just one fee. Because really what you're allowed to do is only one booking per site anyways at any one given time.
Okay. Thank you.
So right now, and I think we omitted this a little bit from why we extended the pilot. At the time, we weren't comfortable that we had control of the program. And from the start, with Ms. Leahy's comments, it feels like we don't have great control of the program. So right now, our monitoring is Airbnb's portal plus staff checking every day a bevy of sites to see if there's listings?
Correct.
Do we have someone who that's their primary job?
Well, that's our code enforcement officer, or neighborhood preservation staff is currently doing that right now, amongst their other duties. But they will at least do it at least weekly, if not more often.
And then if they find one, it's incumbent on that same staffer does the follow-up and the investigation on that?
Correct.
I think to Councilmember Baldino's point, when we first initiated this, the idea was that because it's enabled by technology, people being able to share their homes, that we would be able to use technology to monitor that, because we felt like we would be the proverbial Dutch boy trying to find all the different sites that would continually pop up to allow for rentals and contravention of our policy. Are we allowed, and maybe this is a city attorney question, can we hold a platform liable for violating the city code on this? So if Acme Home Rental short-term pops up and we have a city code that says people have to comply with this program and they enable a misdemeanor or whatever, a code enforcement issue, are we able to action them?
Yes, and we have been, and we will continue to have that authority.
Have we had any success with that?
We haven't, I don't recall any instances where we've cited a non-compliant platform. We've only had issues with parties misusing them, to where we haven't also had to concurrently go after the platform.
Yeah, we've got after hosts.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may just expand on City Attorney's comments, I think it's correct that we haven't had to actively enforce on the platforms because we've gained voluntary compliance or cooperation from the platforms. The reason why we moved away from the third-party vendors is because they were scrubbing the internet for no different information than we could. And what we found is what the reports they were providing was not substantial enough to hold up in any real legal proceeding in terms of verification of actual stays. And it was no different than staff looking at a website itself. And we have such a small sample size of an area to look at. It's not difficult for staff to run a report on a weekly or every couple of days. There's maybe 5 or 6 active listings. It doesn't take long to verify whether it's one of the 24 licenses that we have. If there is a platform that shows itself in the future that is valuable for us in terms of having better legal standing, we'll certainly explore it. But we were shelling out 12 to 15K a year for something that we couldn't really actually use when we were debating with the not the platforms but the hosts themselves. And so we were actually better at getting the information by doing our own research and effectuated a lot of compliance that way. But we have not had to go after the platforms themselves, primarily because we've gotten good cooperation from them.
City Attorney, are we creating a usage right if we enshrine this in the code? That if we take something away from a house later on, if somebody sells on a house that says, look, it's suited for home sharing, I've been able to list it for 20 years.
There's no vested right here.
There's no vested right that accrues to this. I'm leery of that we are policing the ones we know about. We are not policing the ones we don't know about. So our denominator on this is somewhat limited. We don't necessarily know for sure. We're dependent upon the imagination of staffer to think through the various different rental portals. And that's basically the temperament of our code enforcement officer, their currency with what's usable. I know we're working hard on this. I don't know that I feel like we are immensely further along than we were at the same time last year.
Well, I think you described the challenge in code enforcement, which is we can only enforce what we know about. And that's not exclusive to short-term or home share scenarios or violations. We are primarily almost entirely responsive to complaints that are filed with the city. That drives 80 to 90% of our code enforcement time is responding to complaints that we receive. About 10 to 20% of the time is the proactive going after Turo.com, going after the Airbnb hosts that don't have permits. But most of their time is spent reactive to complaints that we receive. And I can't say for 100% certainty, but in the last 2.5 years that I've been here, we have not received any complaints about Airbnbs. There was one prior to my time here that was a very well-known problem house, but we have not had any complaints or any enforcement issues since then. But that is the difficulty of code enforcement, is we only know what we are made aware of.
So one of the things years ago, back in Ireland, when Airbnbs were big, this is way before you had to have an Airbnb, you had to have a sign in front of your garden to designate that this is an Airbnb, and it was issued by the local authority. So maybe we could create some type of sticker, some type of identifier to say this residence or this place has been or has a permit for Airbnb. So neighbors or residents, if they see a lot of people coming in, or they know there's an Airbnb or a short-term rental there, they don't have the sticker, they can notify us and help us ensure. Because one of the things that's always important is that, the people that follow the rules are always, they're following the rules, and it's the people that don't follow the rules that always get away with it. So we really want to make sure it's fair, and the people that are following the rules are treated the same as the people that don't follow the rules. So maybe we could come up with some type of, and I don't know if that's legal or we could do that, but some type of identifier to say this residence has been sanctioned, has a permit to have a home share.
I think it's an interesting idea, Councilmember Pertek. I think it's something we can certainly look into. There may be some public safety concerns about pinpointing and publicly displaying who's an Airbnb and not, or who's a home share or home rental or not. But we can look at different ways of accomplishing what the intent is. I don't know if that's something that the commission or the council wants to resolve before this coming back to the body, or if it's just something that we have marching orders and we can go spend time looking at that, working with PD to figure out if there's, if there's a good way of physically identifying sites that might otherwise be unoccupied during times or.
Well, and we tonight, we can decide, we just want to sanction and like give it another year, another test year. We don't have to make it permanent.
We're in the, what's
Oh,
our
yeah.
gray area there, city
Oh, yeah.
attorney, on
We've already done a
repiloting?
pilot program. We're going to amend our code so that going forward, we can always regulate home shares. If we don't have a code that allows us to regulate, then they can do whatever they want. The reason we have home share and not Airbnbs is we wanted to eliminate the party houses that were being rented out and were getting noisy and were disruptive to our residential neighborhoods. And we found through many public hearings that the folks that lived at the property and rented out the back house or a bedroom weren't the problems. It was these parties, these ragers on Wednesdays when people were trying to get to work. So we had a home share where the homeowner has to be there through a permit process. We have a deal with the major listing sites that allows us to block anyone who's not in compliance. Code enforcement can then have them fill out a permit. If they violate that permit gets taken away. So I do recall that the consultant firm or whoever it was, the work product wasn't worth what we were paying for. I'm glad to hear our staff is trained to now take this on. And the fact that we haven't had complaints about house parties and these nuisances that we're trying to get out of our city, I think shows us this is better than what we were doing before, which was nothing. So what's in front of us is to make this permanent. Staff is always working to increase enforcement, be better. So if they want to make a change or suggestion, they will bring that to us. But I think what we're being asked to do here is we've ran this pilot program. We've seen the results through a decrease in complaints about these house parties, and we're being asked, should we continue this program going forward?
Agree. I think overall it's been a successful pilot. And I think going forward, the success of this goes on a combination of proactive and reactive enforcement. And I think we've done a good job on that. And I don't think we were expecting Airbnb to quite help us out the way they did, so it was really nice of them to open up a portal like that. But in general, I think what we're doing is the right thing. And then very much like Ms. Leahy did in public comment here, we only know when someone says something. So whether it's checking the parent network, the community network, or public comment, I think that's going to be the way forward in combination of what we're already doing. So I like what we're doing.
Question for the city attorney. When we create this, let's say we create this as a permanent program and the World Cup comes by and we think it's a complete disaster, like everything goes bonkers and we want to tear it up before the Olympics, are we able to do that?
Absolutely.
We could simply revoke this and not someone say they have a commercial interest and that we're crushing their business.
I mean, as anyone can sue us over a ham sandwich if they want, it doesn't mean they have a good case, but I doubt that they would be
Those are
successful.
really expensive ham sandwiches. When
Yeah.
we fight them. We fought 9 ham sandwiches last year, and I think the average toll was about $300,000 a sandwich. So,
But I will say, if there's a desire in the future to pivot to exploring an adjusted pilot program or making it non-permanent and removing the allowance, that's completely within the city's police power.
I would propose we approve this and then just have staff report back in a year. Let us know how it's going. But I think the proof is going to be in, we'll hear from our neighbors and our residents if there are problems, and then we'll adjust and pivot and move to correct those.
Is there a way for residents, and maybe not put the sticker in front of their door, but if there's a listing of all those permits that have been pulled, so that residents can go and see on our website to say, okay, I see this happening, like there's do they have a permit for it? And they can go online to see if it's permitted, just like our business license.
Yeah, I think the intent is to, correct me if I'm misunderstanding that, I think the intent is to make it visible so that people understand what's happening at a potential Airbnb and maybe not be shocked if it is an Airbnb, or at least be in the know. But again, there could be a public safety concern with airing out a home that, even though it's home share, is subject to rotating guests, potential vacancy. It is why these sites in themselves do not display the locations until you actually book a listing. And so I think we can suss out the intent and see if there's another way of accomplishing that, even if it's providing a phone number to call to City Hall so that they can just verify, hey, this is a location, can I at least verify that it's legitimate, and then we can respond to that. But I personally would be hesitant to publish online locations where we could be introducing a public safety concern. But I think we can sort out so that we can address maybe what you're trying to accomplish a little bit further down the road.
No, I would also be against publishing or marking a certain property as one way or another. I think if someone has a problem, whether it's home share or not, noise ordinances, you call the city and staff will respond.
Well, I think historically, right, this has become the creeping nuisance issue where we had one very acute problem house, and then to a second, which was more of a swelling problem house where people just thought the kids were perpetually out of control, and then it turned out they were just renting out the pool every weekend for a birthday party. And that was sort of the one, and that was dealt with reasonably quickly, that those owners took action on that, but there were separate issues before this. So I think Councilmember Perstick's point is sort of well taken, that you have someone who's like, am I annoyed enough to call the city? Well, that's one thing, and it's different to be, or am I annoyed enough to just check against a registry of some form? Now, understandably, like I understand that rental things are very sensitive when it comes to danger. This goes back to the German car rental couple in Miami 20 years ago. I mean, I know there's always an issue about labeling rentals and how it makes people a target for crime. But there does need to be some form of checking that doesn't make people have to take the step of calling the police on their neighbors, which is a sort of it's like stepping over somebody's fence, no matter how tall it is, right? It becomes an act of aggression. So I guess I'm at a loss. This certainly has been a success. There's no doubt, because we're not inundated with complaints. I am concerned about once it becomes permanent and the horse is fully out of the barn, what it looks like. Please, Eduardo.
No, I was just going to say that to at least address a little bit of your concern. We do have a link on our website, on our planning page, specifically for short-term rental. Perhaps we could just make sure that we just indicate, hey, if you have a question, or if you want to inquire about a particular property, whether they have a permit or not, please give us a call.
Yeah, that could be as simple as adding it to our report it. You click on report it. What are you trying to report? I reported this, or report a
that way we're not
unauthorized short-term rental.
Advertising it, each of these properties, but at least, it gives the person the resources to come and call or send an email to us.
Because the neighbors have rights as well, and they have a right to understand what's going on in their neighborhood, so.
I like the idea of adding just like a possible unauthorized home share unreported. You can drop a pin, it goes to enforcement, code enforcement, they'll investigate and get back to the person who reports it. Easy enough.
How many community development neighborhood preservation staff do we have?
We have one community preservation staff, neighborhood preservation staff.
And that neighborhood preserver does work weekends, correct?
They work Monday through, they work, yes, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every weekend. If you see her in her cart, please wave in her golf cart.
And
She's
maybe
out there
if we
in her
have
golf cart.
more registered home shares, we can get 2.
I believe we are budgeted for 2. We just
are.
haven't filled the second.
That's correct.
The ICHR, there we go. It was last year's battle. All right.
Move approval?
What the next step on this would be, well, first we'd have to see if we have consensus to move ahead, and then the city attorney would read the ordinance by title only, and someone would introduce it. But first, do we have consensus to move ahead? Do we need to vote on that, Madam Clerk? I think we probably should.
Well, I
It's
think
not really a vote.
I think
If
it's a good program. We
consensus.
should keep it. Is there
To
consensus?
make it permanent? Do you want to make it permanent? You want to make it permanent? You want to make it permanent?
I do.
All right, so we didn't vote, but we found out that I'm outvoted 3-1. City Attorney, would you like to read the ordinance by title only?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. An ordinance of the City of El Segundo amending Title 4, Chapter 16, Home Sharing Permit, and Title 15, Zoning Regulations of the El Segundo Municipal Code to permanently allow short-term home sharing rentals in the city's residential zones through a short-term home sharing permit. is available for a vote. And mind you, this vote would be for a first reading, which is the same as an introduction.
That's right. So do we have well, who will introduce the ordinance is the move, right? So who's going to introduce it?
Joaquin does this different than Mark and I, so that's why we're all confused right now. Because Mark and I
Okay.
just have you introduce it, and then we come back and vote on it. But
Dissolve the
Joaquin
parliament.
More than
likes
one way to
vote
bake a
first.
cake.
I'll go ahead and move to introduce it.
Okay, so we introduce it, and I will assign the second reading and possible adoption, which will have a vote for December 5th. All right, we'll move to our second public hearing.
Thank you, Eduardo.
Thank you.
That was introduced by Councilmember Baldino, December 5th. Mark your calendars, set your VCRs. All right, this is the time and place here to vote fixed for a public hearing regarding the consideration of adopting a cost recovery regulatory permit center permit surcharge fee for online permitting system, online permitting system. City Clerk, was proper notice of the hearing given in a timely manner?
Yes, it was.
Has any written communication been received regarding this?
No, sir.
The public hearing is now open. Mr. George, who will present on this item?
Yes, our Community Development Director, Michael Allen, will present this item.
Mr. Allen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. Before you tonight, we have a couple actions for you on this item. First and foremost is to conduct a public hearing to consider the adoption of the cost recovery fee, which I'll explain in a little bit, as well as approving a expanded contract with OpenGov Inc., which is our current online permitting software for building and safety permits only. I'm actually really glad we have the opportunity tonight because to sort of celebrate the success of the last couple of months or 6 months after we rolled out this new permitting software, and have the pleasure of sort of recognizing Humberto Rivera, one of our admin analysts who was really instrumental in the success of rolling out this new software. 2.5 years ago when I came on, there was another software that they were 2 years into rolling out. I won't go too into the weeds, but it was a disaster. And we were able to pivot and reposition and engage with OpenGov through a sort of non-traditional procurement process. We asked Open Call for any vendor to do a no fee, no cost to the city 6-week pilot program, show us the proof is in the pudding, work with our team, build out a demo workflow, build out the actual prototype, and let us use it for 6 weeks. Three firms bit the offer and worked with us for 6 weeks each. And at the end of the day, they all proposed a cost and a solution, and OpenGov came out on top. They were phenomenal, very easy to work with. Customer service was over above and beyond what we had previously experienced, and to really icing on the cake was really the less than $50,000 a year all in for building and safety permits, all permits, whereas the previous system was a minimum before the escalators was going to be at least $138,000 to $140,000 a year for only building and safety permits. So what we've experienced over the last 6 months, and I just have some very high-level data points today, was pre-OpenGov with our old system, we averaged about 3 weeks, 16.5 business days, around 3 weeks each review cycle for a plan check. And so that's somebody submits a set of plans, applies for a building permit, everybody reviews it, that being building, planning, public works, fire, police, rec and park, and they give back corrections. Then the person resubmits. That usually happens 2 to 3 times. And each time that was happening, it was taking about 3 weeks on average. Now, averages are terrible numbers to base this off of because you cannot compare a plan check for Chargers headquarters to a 100 square foot room addition for a home, right? But that's the data we have. Permit issuance from beginning to end was averaging 4 to 6 weeks. And this is why averages don't make any sense, because even if you did the math, it just doesn't add up. But if we were comparing apples to apples, after we rolled out OpenGov, the review cycles now are happening in two weeks, essentially, 8.7 days. And the permit issuance from application to actual permit issuance, we're averaging about 11.41 days. So again, in about 2 weeks. Both of those, we've cut them down by 50%. That is a huge savings. doesn't really save the city, but it's a huge savings to applicants. It saves them time, it saves them money, saves them reproduction costs of plans, everything's done virtually. What it saves staff is a whole lot of time. We are able to turn around and produce far more work product by the reduced timeframes spent on plan checks themselves. The other thing we implemented about a half a year ago, and I know Ed Dion, our plan checker, would like me to also recognize that he started about a half a year ago, and so this might also be reflective of his skill sets. But we also implemented a 1 week, 2 week, 3 week target date. So now we can compare apples to apples. We're no longer comparing the 100 square foot room addition to a charges project. Charges projects probably fall into the 3 week plus time frame for a plan check review. 100 square foot bedroom, probably 1 week target date. So now moving forward, we can always compare like scope to like scope. But as a whole, as a department, community development, public works, fire and PD, and rec and park, 80% of the time, or 81% of the time, we're hitting these target dates. 18% of the time, we're not hitting these target dates, and we're running about 2 weeks behind 18% of the time. So it gives us a tool to be able to dive in and find out what's going on, and how do we improve these numbers? Do we need to shuffle around the allocation of 1 week, 2 week, 3 week? But this is a significant enhancement and improvement to our ability to in real time evaluate our process and make improvements immediately, which we've been able to do. The other thing we've been able to do is roll out a point of sale survey, essentially. Whenever a building permit is issued or a project actually completes construction, we send out a survey. And it asks questions like, did I understand the process? Did staff inform me adequately? Did it take the amount of time that I expected it to, or that staff told me to? And we're averaging pretty well. It's only been 6 months worth of data collection, but we're 9+ out of 10 rating so far. And so this has also given us great feedback. And some of the other feedback is specific to the portal. We're getting similar feedback of the 9+ out of 10 rating for the implementation of the software. And most importantly, I know the mayor's not here, but I think he would also appreciate the net promoter score would be equal to 84.6, which is a pretty darn good score for us. But on a scale rating 0 to 10, how likely somebody is to recommend our staff or our department to a friend or colleague, we're getting a 9.2 average score. So I think that's a good success story. And amongst the bottom chart, which shows a doubling of permit activity, the orange bar is valuation. Just shows that since the pandemic, we've seen this sort of steady flat line of the amount of dollars being invested. But the blue line shows number of permits issued. So even though the valuation hasn't changed much, we've actually had a doubling of the number of permits issued. And so the work activity of the department has doubled, but we've been able to maintain these numbers and hit these metrics pretty consistently. And this is before the rollout of OpenGov. I mean, just in general, the community development staff has been able to, since 2020, keep up with this increase in workflow. But what OpenGov has done is it's enabled us to track it better, improve services, improve workflow, and streamline some of the turnaround that we have. So it gives me an opportunity to really sort of daylight the success of the program. But this all leads to the rest of my colleague departments had said, hey, we'd love to also use OpenGov. So that facilitated a conversation with OpenGov, seeking a proposal to allow unlimited access for unlimited number of departments, unlimited number of users. So they gave us a very, what I believe to be a fair and competitive quote. And it does have an escalator of 5% each year for the next 2 years after this first, so 3 years total. And at the end of the 3 years, we'd come back and relook at that number. 5% uplift is what they call it, but an inflator may not make sense in 3 years from now, depending on what happens with inflation. And so we are asking for an approval of this contract, waiving the more traditional procurement practice. We did go through a competitive practice. It's just not as traditional of what we normally would do with the 3-ring binder and 2-inch thick RFP. And We did an actual real-time demo and pilot program with these 3 companies. We still believe that OpenGov is providing us the best product. I'm hoping that by seeing some continuity in permits issued by Public Works, Fire, and anybody else who wants to use it, Parks and Rec can use it for special events, then there'll be better continuity in the community. There'll be one place that they can go for all permits across the board. So there's less places that somebody will have to search for permits. So I think it gives a great opportunity for us to provide good continuity of services. And then with that, the only other action is the fee, the surcharge fee. Currently, the surcharge fee is 4% of a building permit issued and a plan check fee, or plan check valuation. And so that is only applicable to building and safety. It's not applicable to any other department. So as staff, we're always asked to make sure we're covering the costs of our operations. And so we are proposing a surcharge fee that's applicable to everybody. By spreading the love a little bit, that fee actually goes down to 3.5% in order to cover the cost of the software and any enhancements that we require annually, purchase of iPads, any other technical equipment that we need to utilize the software. So with that, I can answer any questions. I'm happy to brag more about our plan checker and our staff and their amazing job, improving workflow. But otherwise, the floor is yours.
The public hearing is now open for public comment. Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Chair Baldino seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Council discussion, and I would point out we have 2 separate items in this item. 1, the OpenGov contract, and 2, the fee structure, so we can delineate between the 2.
So, Mr. Allen, will this, I know I've been a big supporter of this OpenGov and moving to the new platform, and will now we be able to retire the Access database once?
Yeah, I'm ready to put the nail in the coffin.
Okay.
I have a question, and hopefully you can answer it, but I see in the cost pricing here, the bulk of the fees are coming from is 3.5 for Community Development Department, which is yours, but there's $50,000 for Recreation Parks and Library Department permits.
Yeah.
Would anyone know what those are in general?
Yeah, so generally that came from special event fees. It was a projection. We took the numbers straight from the budget because we can't just make up numbers, and that's the most should be reliable source. And so we took the projected budget or projected expense and revenue generated from special events. When we were working with this, special events was essentially the only applicable permit that we could think of at the moment from Rec and Park, and that dollar amount is associated with that.
Okay, so we're talking about like the Kiwanians, if they want to do Chili Palooza, they need a permit, they can now use this, and they'd be hit with a 3.5 fee on top of whatever that
That's
permit would
correct,
be.
yeah.
Okay. Well, let me first start by thanking you and your leadership you've given to our Community Development Department. I think a great sign of success is not just the fact that you've created this software program to make getting a permit quicker, easier to understand, and you've given us KPIs, which the mayor will love. But the fact that other departments see you doing something that's working and want to be a part of it, and you've expanded it to be across the city, I think is fantastic. So thank you for this. I think you have every right to brag about this, and I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
And, I'll juxtapose this with the last item. The last item, success seemed to be predicated on the efforts and initiative of individuals, which is working now, but should they leave, would be subject to who takes over. This is a more durable process, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. I think that a enormous improvement we've seen in the last 4 years is the willingness of people to get permits, and the part of that is the clarity with which they understand when they're going to get it, what the direction is. You could see it in the volume of permits. My concern here is by charging people 3.5% additional to put their bounce house in Rec Park, that we'll be dissuading that same sort of permitting behavior. So as we delineate between these 2 items, I'm delighted by the success of the OpenGov program. It was somewhat a morass before, so I'm fully supportive of engaging that. I think that I would also be in favor of the funding source for this software to be from the general fund, from the IT budget, as opposed to pushing this wholly onto everyone who applies for a permit. So I think if there's an overage that comes in and on top of the 4% fee we're already charging, we can make up that delta. My preference would be to make it up from the IT budget. But that's just me. I'm open to other opinions.
So your proposal is keep 4% for the building permits, which is a bulk of.
That's right, which makes it the preponderance of the funding on this, and then any of that delta is something that we would fund from the general fund.
Now, okay, so just community development, or do you want public works and the fire department? Because those are somewhat building related.
No, just what we're doing now on development, and the rest would come from the general fund budget.
Can we determine what that cost would be?
Yeah,
It
so
should-
It's all here, I'm trying to do the
yeah,
math
if you look,
myself.
It's
if you looked at the
140,000.
breakdown in the Exhibit A, let me just do some quick math.
It's on
If
the
you
order.
only relied on community development, I'm sorry, I missed the last couple sentences, but did you determine only community development, meaning, when that would be planning and building and safety, basically?
That's correct.
Okay, so then it would be 4% of 3.3 mil, basically. Four percent.
No, it's, hold on. Dude, throwing the math question out today.
Oops.
1/25th.
So that would
Robinson did it, is
generate
that-
about $134,000, estimating the revenues, and so that would cover the bulk. I mean, if
That's
the
right.
annual cost is 140, 150, you're only talking about $5,000 to $10,000 a year coming from the general fund.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a rounding error. And I just don't want to dissuade people from the permitting process. This has been a huge success, even though Carol and I are the only ones who get the sound permit.
We're gonna change that.
But gouging us for an extra $8 on top of the $160 we spend on it. All right, before, I guess, well, let me ask, does anyone have feelings either way on that item? I think that we have consensus on moving ahead with the OpenGov contract.
Yeah, that's,
The
I think we have
3.5
consensus.
versus 4, does anyone have any strong feelings either way? Am I the only one who has an emotional attachment to?
Yeah, I prefer the 3.5 over the whole system because it goes in line with kind of the council's direction, which has always been, hey, let's recoup the cost of staff on the person asking for that service. And to make one exception because you think someone's not gonna rent a bouncy house, I get it, even if it's a little difference, but then what if that delta grows?
Well, if we have somebody and we want them to get a permit for somebody they think's absurd anyhow, and they say, well, wait, and I have to pay extra for the system to charge me for the permit, I mean, it becomes this sort of cyclical, why do I pay 3.5%? So I have a system to charge you 3.5%, because otherwise, I mean, there's not much of a value add to a permit for a bounce house, but we charge for it. But, I don't know, so it's 1-to-1.
Yeah,
And we get even
This is
numbers,
fun.
the death knell of those meetings.
Bounce houses are expensive in general.
You never know.
I tend to agree with the staff on this and do a 3.5% across the board.
I feel like people are gonna be nickel and dimed. Councilmember Perstick, no pressure.
You know, all of our fees have just gone up. I do feel, I'm gonna go with Chris on this one.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I can make a suggestion, we are mid-year, and so what I might suggest is that we apply the 3.5% to community development, public works, and fire. Those are all development related. And we do some data collection over the next half a year, and when finance brings the master fee schedule, updating all the fees, we come prepared for some data that maybe we can make a little bit more of an informed decision specific to rec park and library.
Did you mention, okay, but the rec park and library piece, like, there's a lot of big events that are happening that this would really help us solve.
It won't exclude us from using this for rec part. It's just that 3.5% won't be on top of their fee. They'll get charged the fee. We're going to set up this system
Okay.
to use for
So
special
it doesn't,
events.
okay, so it doesn't exclude them from using the system.
Right.
It's
And-
all gonna be done easy, okay.
And we would revisit this at the master fee schedule, when in theory, there's 5 of us.
But one of the other issues that we need to take a hard look at is, so if it actually costs more to pull a permit to run an event at a private property than it does a public space. And that is a problem. So like when I pull a permit to run it at a public space, it costs me more than it would if I had ran that event on public space. And that to me is a big issue. And that's where I really want to make sure we take a hard look at that, because they're treated very differently. One is through Parks and Recs and one is through planning. And we need to make sure that an event, or if we're holding a party, you know, that if you're going to take a public space, you should be paying more than if you're just doing it at a private space. And I think that's the bigger issue for me.
Mr. Allen, I like your proposed compromise. What you're saying is we'll keep the 3.5 at the development, the 50,000 for Parks and Rec will allow them to use the service, but we'll talk about whether or not we want to tack on that extra 3.5 permitting access fee when we're talking about this fee schedule. So that would be your proposed modification.
That's correct.
I could
So right
support that.
between the time where we discussed the Western show and the circus and the palm reader and all of my
But
other
I do,
favorite.
at that time.
Well, along with that, the same
That's
sort of data and
We need to
analysis
bring that,
that
I mean,
Steve's
it's been an
suggested.
issue and we need to address that. And I know that, you know, the chambers come up here, the, you know, Rotary, there's a lot of, you know, when they ran the movie in the park, you know, it's all, they've had to pay $2,000 in fees, where if they had run it at Library Park, it would have been half that cost. So we really need to understand why the fees are very vastly different and it costs more to run it at a private space.
Understood.
All right, sounds like we have consensus for the master fee schedule was when we'll really decide about the other departments going from or sharing in the 3.5%. So with that, City Attorney, will you read the resolution by title only?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Resolution amending a regulatory fee to recover city costs incurred for certain regulatory permitting processes for online permitting system is available for a vote.
Who will move approval?
So moved.
Baldino seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
And do I have a motion to approve the city manager to execute the First Amendment to the existing 3-year agreement with OpenGov?
Yes. Moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
So, but can I make sure that we do bring the issue up, because the nonprofits doing events at private space should not be paying. I want to make sure that that's on an agenda.
Yes.
That we actually address that.
Yep, made note of that.
All right, item 14, plans and specifications for the Urusari Swim Stadium renovation project. City Manager, who will present on this item?
Yes, our Public Works Director, Elias Hassoun, will make the presentation, but before he jumps into this, this is kind of a milestone item tonight, I think, in terms of bringing forward the plans and specifications for the plunge, as well as asking for authority to advertise the project for construction bids. So looking forward to making the presentation tonight. So with that, I'll turn it over to Elias.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. So pretty much the city manager went over what I wanted to say, what this item is all about. So without any further ado, I'd like to, if you would, reintroduce Ms. Cheryl Ebert, who is the project manager doing the plunge, She has a few slides she would like to share with you regarding this project. And then we got the consulting firm on Zoom in case there are any questions. So if you would, please.
Sure. Good evening. Arcadis, our consultant, came to City Council in June to describe the design changes that needed to be included in our construction package. And tonight we're bringing to you a few updates related to the cost and the schedule since the last briefing. And there's a lovely rendering of it. In June, the presentation included a full roof replacement and waterproofing the exterior of the building. However, the design was still being updated at that time. So after completing the design, we realized we updated the costs, and the costs are now shown. So waterproofing has increased by $240,000. Roofing, at the time we presented, we were proposing to replace the entire roof, and so the roof is now up to another $407,000. Also, our municipal code requires that the rooftop equipment must be screened from public view, so a perforated metal screen was added around the HVAC equipment with an added cost as shown, $128,000. Lastly, we further evaluated our ventilation system, and costs also increased on that as well, $323,000. With that, the price increased for the whole project by $1.1 million. So you can see here from our June presentation to the current price, cost estimate, we've gone up about $1.5 million to $12.5 million as our cost estimate for this project. You can also see the design contingency came down because our design plans, we're almost at 100% plans right now. So our plans are with final agency reviews with the City Community Development Department as well as the Los Angeles County Health Department. So right now we're doing agency review. We're planning to bid it out in the next 2 weeks or so, as long as we adopt the resolution tonight. With the bid opening of January 23rd of 2024. After the bid opening, we do bid evaluations, which includes checking the bid proposal for accuracy and completeness, doing reference checks, checking the contractor's license and insurance. We plan to come back to award the project to a contractor March 19th of 2024. And then we'll, hit the ground running with pre-construction of contract execution, doing submittals, looking at the contractor schedule, and then start ordering materials, hopefully breaking ground by June or July of next year. So our next steps, like I mentioned, we'd like to come back and award it March 19th next year. Before then, funding strategy will be brought back to City Council based on the low bid that we receive in January to figure out how we'll fundraise for the rest of the funds. The planning has already been initiated for the fundraising campaign, and that campaign will kick off in January of 2024. And the next step really is to bid it out and start construction in summer of 2024. Our consultant's available for any design questions. I'm here for any questions if you have any. Elias is here, and thank you very much.
So this is once we start construction in the summer of 2024, it's an 18-month project?
Yeah, we're still looking at the exact schedule, and the contractor will provide his schedule. We're trying to reduce it by ordering materials early up front, but right now we're looking at 18 months.
And then one of the things that part of the new assessment is that we do not need to replace the windows, but we just replace the screens on the windows, the metal screens on the windows.
Some of the windows are going to be replaced, but not all of them. The one that were replaced a few years ago, we do not have to replace them. They meet the criteria, but the ones that are in the lockers room, they are going to be changed with new windows.
And all those metal grates?
They're all going to be washed, cleaned, and painted.
No, I thought
oh, the one in the, on the locker rooms, they're all going to be new. Yeah.
No, but the metal grates on the outside, those will be replaced.
The ones that are falling off.
Yeah, if they have to be replaced, we'll replace them. But if we can refurbish them, clean them, and paint them, and put them back in place, we will. But those are relatively done. You know, it's with the low cost, we may replace them. Those are not the major costs. The major cost would be take out the window, replace them. The one that you're talking about is not going to be that expensive. Yes, we can replace them.
And this timeline, you know, obviously, from the June to today, you know, it's gone up $1 million, right? Obviously, because we.
Well, as Cheryl included the additional cost, as we approached toward the 100% of the design, we run into issues like waterproofing. We run into issues like the total roof had to be replaced, the drainage, you know, all the costs that as we progressed on the design that they came about. So that's really what caused that $1 million.
So how much did inflation increase the cost by?
I don't know if I have an answer for that.
We normally typically apply 3 to 4% for inflation, but I think this additional cost was more toward the fact that we found things that needed to be done than inflation.
Yeah, waterproofing and roof replacement. The roof replacement previously was only partial roof replacement for the seismic work that had to be done. So we were looking at the last council meeting to replace the entire roof, which was just the added cost of another $400,000. The roof is well over 20 years old, but you know, it's pretty old.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
Thank you for the update. I'm sure a lot of people in town are glad that this project is getting moving, and with this, we can actually finalize plans, go out for bid. I think we are best served replacing the roof and fixing the waterproofing. If we're going to spend money, we should do it right, and those are areas of construction you cannot shortchange. So thank you.
So, do we have any flexibility on the HVAC screening? $130,000 to hide our HVAC system sounds like a lot. Are we hiding it with a Maserati? Like, what do we?
Well, I let Cheryl to also weigh on that, but we had to go to Planning Commission, and we had to make a briefing to the Planning Commission since this building was registered as historical. And frankly, this was not the most expensive way to screen what we had to add onto the roof. So beyond above that, do you?
Yeah, it was part of our municipal code that when going to Planning Commission that they wanted to see in the design. And it's something that we require of any commercial business that comes in and puts equipment on the roof. It's our own code.
Yes, it's our own code.
Well, you see the direction I'm heading here. Is there and that is a significant investment. I know in the sort of design approval that we will look for the most economical way, and that's probably a conservative number on there, but you know, it doesn't have to be galvanized. It'd be something, put pallets up there.
It's not that it's a screen made of gold. It's just the nature of public works construction, prevailing bid, prevailing wage for the employees. And again, if we're going to rehabilitate this historical plunge, why wouldn't we screen off the HVAC system that's going to be an eyesore? I think in the comparison of a $12 million budget, an extra 160 to make the roof look nice is not a tough ask for me to sign off on.
I mean, we just took a minute to vote on $10,000 in planning fees. So, I think it is fiduciaries. If that is something that would seem to me to be a item on there that we can be creative with to try and find the least impactful, because that is purely an aesthetic consideration. That is not keeping water out of the building. So that's all I will say on that.
So I've been pretty vocal on this topic for the couple of years I've been up here, and I would be remiss in not bringing up some glaring things. You've gone from $10.5 million to $13 million estimated in 6 months. the chance that that number is going to be higher than 13 million is probably better than average. All right, so I've always had an issue with the fact that we were taking an indoor facility. Can you name one other indoor facility like this in Southern California? There's one, Commerce. I know because I've been there a few different tournaments. That building not only has the pool, it houses district offices, it has a gymnasium, it has a workout facilities, it's 3 stories, so it's multi-purpose. Other than that, everything is outside. All new constructions are being done outside. And the reason for that is cost. It is demonstrably more expensive to run, maintain, and manage an indoor facility. If we were considering doing this as an outdoor facility, we wouldn't be talking about HVAC. We wouldn't be talking about a new roof. We wouldn't be talking about any of that stuff. And my fundamental problem with this is that every other project we ever look at, Rec Park, we've hired 2 different companies to come in and give us 15 different ways that we can do everything. And we've never, ever looked, to my knowledge, at what it would look like to have, hey, how do we convert that into an outdoor facility? Can we use solar to heat the pool? We don't know if it's more. It might be, I can guarantee you it will not be more from a maintenance perspective year to year. Guarantee that. So I know I'm not going to get consensus on this. I agree that there should be a pool there. I cannot, as a fiduciary, cannot say and live with the fact that we're okay with spending this much money, and then the amount of money we're going to have to continue to spend every year into eternity. We're not going to be here to have to deal with all that. That is going to be sold down the river to everybody that comes after us. It's not a responsible decision that we're making right now. It's an emotional one. I want to have a pool too. But can we, at the very least, just take a look at what it would look like to have an outdoor facility that didn't have to have all the things that we have right now? It would take what? I mean, just to humor me on this, to study what that would look like and what the cost would be. Would that be what? 3 months to do that? 2 months to do that? To do a design plan? I can't imagine that.
Initially, we looked at demolition costs, and to do an outdoor pool, because the construction is fundamentally different, you have to demo the building, you dig it out, and I think the sum total at the time was about $7 million was the cost of that project. At the time. At the time, the sum total estimate on this was about $9 million.
So that's what I'm saying is that, I mean, you've built these pools before.
Yes,
So an outdoor facility versus an indoor facility.
it's probably less maintenance, less headache.
Probably.
Cheaper. Yes.
All of it. It's there. I'm just saying that we've never even considered it. And this is the last minute, the last chance we're going to get to actually consider that. And I just think that it is a little irresponsible on our part not to look at what an alternative would be. I'm not saying that it should be something other than a pool, but the way we build the new plunge, like what should that look, when this was built in, sorry, I forget the year right now, it was one of a kind. I mean, it was way ahead of its time. Well, it's not ahead of its time anymore. Like, what is this going to look like 25 years down the road? What are the needs going to be? Because right now we're spending $13, $14 million plus to have the exact same dimensions of a pool, exact same depth, very, very limited usage in what we can do with it. If we redug this thing out and redid it, you're talking a whole other opportunity for cost recovery, what we can offer the community, what we can put in there environmentally. There's so much more we could do, and I know it's out there because I've seen it. Listen, you're in the same boat I am. I'm in pools all the time with water polo and things like that. I've seen what other cities have done. And I just think that we need to, at the very least, at this minute, take a breath, take a look at what it would cost. If it ends up being something we don't want to do, fine. But we haven't even looked at it. And that's my problem. And that's why I can't support this.
Any further comments?
I can't say that I disagree with you. My philosophy on this project is This train left the station before I got here, and I believe that the work that's gone into it and the momentum at this point, I don't want to stand in the way. But I appreciate you and what you're saying. And I like I said, it's hard for me to disagree that an outdoor pool wouldn't have as much appeal to the community. But I'm not up here to undo what prior councils have done. I just want to get the work done as expediently as possible. And if this is the path we're going down, and I am confident in Elias and our consultant that they've looked at this and they've gotten those numbers, and I agree, they'll go up. You know, when you rehabilitate anything, you're going to have unforeseen conditions and everything else. But for the reasons I stated, I'm going to approve this and move it forward. But I appreciate your comments.
I'll go to bat for Elias's department on this, though. You know, traditionally, I had a pretty jaundiced view of how we budgeted things, and maybe you're a great sandbagger on budgeting, Elias. That could be the case, but we come in under every time. We come in under every time. We hit that contingency number every time. So, be that as it may, I think all of us come in here and think that every project is the bullet train, but they haven't been for the last few years. So, if you tell me we do it at 12.1, you know, I've got pretty good odds that we'll get there around 12. Any further comments? City Attorney, I'm going to have you read the title, and then we can decide if we have a motion to adopt.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you.
A resolution authorizing the Public Works Director or designee to approve the plans and specifications for the construction of the Rio Sauri Swim Stadium Plunge Renovation Project, number Public Works 2402, pursuant to Government Code Section 830.6 and El Segundo Municipal Code Section 1-7C-11, and establishing a project payment account is available for council consideration.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Baldino seconds.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes 3-1. Now do I have a motion to authorize the staff to advertise this production for bid, this project for bid?
So moved.
Baldino seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion passes 3-1. All right, item 15. Does anyone need a break or up here? Are we all good to keep trucking? All right, item 15. Establish the environmental programs manager at-will classification and adopt the classification specification, examination plan, and basic salary range.
Yes,
City Manager,
our
who will present on this item?
Human Resources Director, Rebecca Raddick, will present this item.
Ms. Reddick, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem and council members, this item tonight establishes the environmental programs manager to address environmental concerns as was discussed in the public meeting for the City Council Strategic Planning Workshop back in May of 2023, earlier this year. This position would intentionally be focused on environmental issues such as sustainability, conservation, clean energy, as well as commercial and solid waste collection, recycling, and disposal, and air quality programs. I have worked very closely with the Public Works Director to create the classification specification for this position, which is attached to the staff report. This position would be an at-will manager. It would be in the unrepresented management and confidential group, and it would be placed in the Public Works Department. This position would require a recruitment. So depending on the timing of when the recruitment was completed, the individual was selected, and where they were placed within the salary range, the maximum fiscal impact for the remainder of this current fiscal year would be $110,000. To add anything or no?
Council questions?
No questions, but I do know from working on ad hoc with council member Persdeck how much time staff has dedicated to Hyperion. It's not just Elias. We bring in Diane to help communicate. We take the city manager's time. And so the idea of getting someone with expertise, because we do live in a city surrounded by industrial uses, be it Chevron, Hyperion, the LAX, having someone with the knowledge to be able to monitor their regulatory compliance as well as work on other environmental projects, I think will alleviate that burden from some staff members. And the hope, Elias, is that you won't have to be everywhere all the time now. You can help delegate some of this out to someone, and because you're becoming an expert in pool construction pretty soon here. So we need you to shift gears and learn a new trade. So thank you.
When we bring this person aboard, how quickly do we cease the consultancy and lobbying budgets to offset this? That's probably a city manager question, but right now we have sort of we have money that sits that's doing the environmental function chiefly around Hyperion. With this rule will make those obsolete?
Well, the roles, yes, but I don't know about necessarily the dollars. If that's what, if I'm understanding your question.
Well, so we pay Consolvis, $4,500 or something a month.
Oh, okay.
We pay to get this,
Right,
to help us
gotcha.
get the bill passed. We pay the doctor to deal with
Yes.
Hyperion. In theory, this takes over
Correct.
both of those
That's true.
roles. So
In
that
that-
frees
in that
up, that
regard.
basically goes one-to-one on our
Yes.
salary hit. That won't cover the total fiscal impact.
That's correct. Yes, in that area, you're right.
And so we anticipate those more or less being event-driven. This person comes aboard and we
Yes,
start
and
to,
as-
those
and as
start
we
to cascade
gauge-
away.
Correct, and as we gauge the scope of work that this person will take on, those particular private contracts can go away over time, yes.
Are there any other fiscal offsets that we see coming from this role? Are there any other, those are the two that sprang to mind. I mean, I think there's
Yes.
pocket costs that come from staff time that's
Right.
being devoted to
Those
it.
two are the primary ones. Al, can you think of any other dollars that we allocate? I mean, in terms of recycling efforts, do you have people?
Yeah, do we have a
handle-
consultant who does the Cal Recycle? I know that there's grants involved on the implementation, but
Right.
because we're so far ahead of the curve on that, we've sort of screwed that up. But
So this individual actually will be able to also locate grants and help us to be able to land on some grants. Also, we are looking forward to working with the water board when they collect the fee or the citation rather from Hyperion for millions of dollars. We feel like part of it is due to City of El Segundo because of the environmental issues that were created as a result of that incident. And I'm just hoping that we'll be able to convince them, and I think they agree, that the City of El Segundo deserves a portion of those proceedings, which it would be a perfect place for us to absorb the cost for this position, if that makes sense.
That's an interesting idea, because when we made that case to District 4
Yes.
before, they
Yes.
said that they could see applying the money to oversight, but their idea was on the Hyperion end. There would be funding oversight there or on the Department of Public Health, not for our level of oversight.
Not just that, in my humble opinion, the effects, or I should say the adverse impact of the Hyperion incident to El Segundo could be mitigated by things that we could do like charging stations, like things that we could do to environment to make up for what we went through, which this position can also spearhead and secure the money and implement those programs to make up for what we have lost environmentally.
City Attorney, a question for you on that. Is that something where an award like that comes out of a fine or forfeiture could be used for an operating cost as opposed to a one-off? We could make the case to fund a consultant as an ad hoc cost to mitigate environmental pieces, but if we're increasing headcount, could we make a case to District 4 that we want part of the fines and forfeitures they're assessing to Hyperion, we wanted to offset a personnel cost?
We could, absolutely.
Yes, definitely.
All right, motion to approve.
I'll second it. Yeah.
Second.
Do we need to do these one? We need to do these one at a time, correct? So we have a motion, my motion is to approve the establishment of the at-will classification, the manager position at-will classification. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye. No, I was.
Yes, Giroux. Can we take these all in one? No, look at that.
Careful.
All right. Can I get a motion to adopt the classification, specification, and examination plan?
Sure.
Second?
Baldino second.
There we go. All in favor?
Aye.
That's Perstick, then Baldino. 3, a motion to adopt a resolution establishing the basic salary range for the environmental project manager at will position.
Sure, Baldino moves.
Second.
And I can read the resolution.
Or we can let Joaquin do it.
A resolution establishing basic monthly salary range for a full-time job classification is available for a vote.
Baldino moves, Giroux seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Can we make sure we follow up on approaching the water board for this?
Be more than happy to.
Very well. Thank you, Ms. Reddick.
Thank you.
And you were here for the last one, which is the memorandum. This is our special meeting.
Yes.
The memorandum of understanding between the City of El Segundo and the El Segundo Police Managers Association, and amendment to the city contributions for CalPERS medical premiums.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council. We are very pleased to bring to the council tonight a tentative agreement reached between the city and the Police Managers Association for a successor contract of 2 years and 9 months. The PMA includes the positions of captains, of lieutenants, and covers 6 employees. Like other employees that have reached agreement earlier this year, these negotiations included a comprehensive review of the memorandum of understanding with that red line copy attached to the staff report. The salary and benefit provisions for the new MOU include a one-time retention payment of $3,750, salary adjustments, 7% effective following approval and adoption of the MOU, and then 3% July 1 of 2024, 3% July 1 of 2025. Health insurance increases by $50, $50 additional from $1,700 to $1,750 in January 24, an additional $50 in January 25 and January 26. Additionally, this unit provides educational incentive pay on a per pay period basis, so increasing the education for lieutenants and captains who possess a master's degree, for lieutenants up to $500 per pay period, and captains $750 per pay period. Also, some restructuring of the executive leave program, so it would mirror the administrative leave program in Management Confidential, increasing the leave for captains from 56 hours to 80 to offset some of the overtime hours that they work, maintaining that leave for lieutenants, and then providing a carryover provision for just this year to include 28 hours. After that, it's a use it or lose it leave awarded on a calendar year basis. The addition of 1 personal leave day per year, which, as you will recall, the prior contracts included that. And then the removal of the exceptional leave program in its entirety in exchange for a one-time lump sum payment of 40 hours. There were some cleanup provisions throughout the MOU, which included constructive receipt language to comply with the IRS requirements, and then also a reworking to promote people when they promote to include whatever pays they were receiving and base their rate of the promotion salary within the range based off of their compensation that they were already earning, so that they are not taking a pay cut to get promoted. So with that, I do have a resolution included to approve the MOU, and also as required by CalPERS, a $50 PIMCA, Public Employees Medical Hospital Care Act resolution is also required.
Thank you, Ms. Reddick. City Attorney, would you like to read the title?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. A resolution approving and adopting the memorandum of understanding between the City of El Segundo and the El Segundo Police Managers Association bargaining unit is available for a vote.
Anyone like to discuss or move?
So moved.
Persick, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
City Attorney, we have a second motion, or a second resolution.
Yes, thank you. Resolution fixing the employer contribution under the Public Employees Medical and Hospital Care Act at an equal amount for employees and annuitants with respect to a recognized employee organization 007. El Segundo Police Managers Association is available for a vote.
Baldino moves.
Persick, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Reddick.
Thank you.
I'm glad to have that one out of the way. And important to note on that second one, once again, that is lifetime medical. Not many cities left to do that. All right, down to section E, item 16, the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee's 2023-24 work plan. City Attorney, who will present on this item?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, the chair of the DEI will actually present this item. Cristabel Villano, actually, I guess, Aracia will be introducing the item.
Yes, of course. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. My name is Aracia Hester, and I'm the Recreation Superintendent for Recreation Parks in the Library Department. Being both forward-thinking and progressive, the City Council established the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, also known as DEI, in October 2020. The committee's purpose is to inspire and activate efforts to integrate diversity, equity, and inclusion into the City of El Segundo's decisions. This will also improve our service delivery, policies, and well-being of the entire City of El Segundo. This evening, we have Cristabel Villena, Chair of the DEI Committee, to present the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee's work plan for the fiscal year of 23-24. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to apologize in advance. I've lost my voice, and maybe it's from 3 months of cheering for my son at the Little League World Series. But I am recovering, so I apologize for how I sound and if I need to take some breaks. I think I used this. Is that right? Mm-hmm.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no problem.
See, I wasn't joking when I said Elias does everything.
Yeah, I see that.
Here you go.
Wonderful. So the last time we saw you was in May when we presented the Community at Large report. Again, since then we've had a very eventful summer. It was challenging for us to get quorum for our meetings since our last presentation. But we did, have some special meetings. We got together. I was able to review a draft work plan with our liaison, Councilmember Giroux. And last month, we were finally able to approve a work plan to present to you all at this meeting. So I do have some slides here, but I'm probably going to skip through them because I think you've seen them before. Is this work? Do I just hit this?
Yeah, you advance.
Advance?
Yes. I can go to the next slide for you. Just let me know when I'll do it for you.
Okay. We'll go to the next.
Next.
I don't know if it's on. Do I need to?
Is that the one you want?
Do I push this one?
Yeah.
Oh, there it goes. Yeah. Maybe this one? Should I hold it down? Oh, I need to point it this way.
I'll advance this.
Okay,
slide,
thank
you know.
you.
Sure.
Thank you, Leia. Sorry.
Yeah, sure, no. Are you on the right slide?
Yeah, we can go forward. It's the next
You want me
slide.
to go forward?
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right, so again, so just some highlights from the year. I think we reviewed this in the last one. If you can move forward again. I wanted to prioritize, 'cause I know you all have been here for 3 hours already almost. Next slide. Next slide again. And next slide. So this is where I wanted to just touch base a little bit and give an update on our committee. So we do have 9 members typically. We have had terms end for 2 of our members just last month. We had 2 vacancies already, so that was, now we have a total of 4 vacancies. We have terms for 3 of our members ending in October of next year, and then 2 members ending in October of 2025. You know, the quorum issues, the terms ending, we've had weddings, parental leave, again, Little League World Series, so different reasons why we've had some challenges to meet and you know, get work done. And so as we proceed with this next round of recruitment, I know we had shared with Ally some draft interview questions to maybe help manage expectations of being on this committee. Perhaps timing with recruitment, we kind of know when terms end. Maybe we can do it ahead of when terms are ending, because at this point we have 5 members. One of them is on parental leave, so you know, we need 5 for quorum. So I'm, you know, 2 of the members that ended their terms are going to continue until the positions are filled as needed. So they'll continue on meetings as needed to help with the quorum issues. But I do, you know, have that request of you all to keep us posted and let us know if there's anything else we can do to help with the recruitment and selection process for our committee. All right, next slide. And so in June, July, we decided on a different team structure for our subcommittees. So it's very similar to how we operated the first few years of the committee. So now we'll have data and resources, community relations, and city engagement, and I'll dive into each of these. There's currently 2 members per subcommittee, and I am on all 3 of them. Again, that was to help kind of avoid quorum as these subcommittees meet. So next slide. All right, data and resources. We have Emily and Shather serving on this committee. All right, so this will continue some ongoing work that this committee done. They'll be the point of contact for things like public safety, any kind of looking at data, collection of data through our surveys, and then just kind of being our home for any DEI-related trainings and resources that we want to make sure are available to the city council, city staff, and the community. So something new that we would like to do this year, now that we do have a couple years of RIPA data available, and likely some good progress made around DEI-related issues and trainings for ESPD. We'd love to partner with Chief Bermudez and ESPD to do a community briefing. So one of their exercises, I did the Community Police Academy, and one of the exercises they do with their officers is they'll review an incident with the officers, kind of what worked, what are ways to improve, and you know, any kind of action items and next steps. And so we thought maybe we can do a similar structured briefing with community members. Maybe it's, you know, it has a Zoom element so more people can kind of observe and participate. We can record it. But this is very open, you know, based on how the ESPD would like to collaborate with us. So we're hoping to have something planned for that in the first quarter of next year. And then again, ongoing items like reviewing data, presenting you with any key data that we might think will be relevant for you all to consider, and then building on any kind of online resources that we can provide for folks, especially as we have like things like city proclamations, you know, cultural and historical months, making sure that the website has maybe some things that people can kind of point to and go to with immediate actions to either celebrate or commemorate whatever's happening in our city around DEI. Great, so the next one is community relations. So this will be Valerie and Lewis. And so this subcommittee, this team, something we want to bring back is a panel discussion. We did this with aerospace early on with the committee. We want to do another one. The EDC has reached out to me. Thanks again to Councilmember Baldino for helping to facilitate that. To do a meet and greet with DEI and the EDC, and we think it'd be a great opportunity for us to perhaps partner next year on a panel discussion or some kind of community conversation on a DEI-related topic that we all can agree on. So that's hopefully in the works. I'm hoping to meet with EDC in the next couple of weeks. Another new aspect of this would be a community liaison group. So just, you know, even with 9 members on the committee, it's hard to represent all of the different, groups in town. Especially things around maybe ESUSD, different religious groups, age, different abilities. And so we wanted to kind of engage with different community liaisons from throughout town, maybe meet with them regularly, convene them, or reach out to them just to help inform any kind of DEI-related activities that we have planned, making sure that we're being responsive and sensitive to different groups, to turn to them to accept proclamations, so it's not always, me or a DEI committee member coming here to accept them. So really just, again, another group of folks that we can rely on and engage around DEI in town. And then under this community relations, again, kind of renamed the Community at Large committee from before, is really helping with the city proclamations as they relate to DEI. So coming up with a schedule ahead of time for the year, drafting proposed proclamations already so that they're ready to go, selecting people to help accept them ahead of time. Again, just having more planning around proclamations and any kind of activities or events for the city and the community. And then the last team is city engagement. So this is Valerie and Lewis as well. And so this one really is the point of contact for any city and local businesses. The big idea we had around this one is perhaps establishing a process for a DEI community award. Maybe it can go to a local business or a community member that's had, shown success and impact around DEI in town. I know we have El Segundo Community Service Awards already, so maybe it can be incorporated into that. So really collaborating with the folks to designate an award that's focused on DEI. And then ongoing things would be, continue to be available for any kind of improvements or discussion on policies and practices for the city, and then continue to support city events like Unite Against Hate Week and the Festival of Holidays. So speaking of, next week we have we got confirmation today. We reached out last week or 2 weeks ago on hosting our 3rd annual Candlelight Vigil. I know we have the State of the City that Tuesday. So after that, we're hoping to do a short event at City Hall Plaza where we'll have some speakers from the community, posters available, some candles lit to just commemorate Unite Against Hate Week, which runs all week next week. South Bay Community Coalition Against Hate is on board to help promote it, as well as many others that are supportive of this event. So we invite you all. I know there's also in the works perhaps having you all attend or one of you speak at the event. So hopefully all these details will be confirmed soon. And then as part of the agenda packet, you did get a copy of a more detailed work plan. I also have a spreadsheet if you'd like to see it that has tasks and assignments. But we thought this, would be enough information. But I'm, of course, happy to answer any questions or provide more information as you need.
I like the light on that water
I know,
shower.
it's beautiful.
Thank you, Christabel. All right, council questions.
Just thank you for your patience tonight. It's been a long meeting. Thank you for sitting here, but thank you for your time and your service on the committee. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Christabel. You do a great job and always send a great message, and I think it's important that we continue to always look, and challenge ourselves. The one thing I do want to say, like, as someone who's big into messaging, that the program where it says United Against Hate, I would hope, I wish we could change the posters where we could say united as in a community or united in as together. Like when you walk down the street and all you see the word is hate, 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 it really is not, sometimes it's subliminally, it could send a different message than what we're trying to accomplish. So I know it's a bigger program than us, but I just, every time I walk down and I see those posters, it drives me crazy because it just, to me, it sends a very negative message. And I would prefer to say united as a community, united in love, united together. Like, I'm always about positive messaging. So I just had to say that because
Thank
I
you.
know the posters are going to be up, and it's going to drive me crazy, because as you walk down, you just see hate, 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 and it just sends a bad message.
Yes, and it is a national campaign, and
understand.
so they designed it for us, but we can make that recommendation
Yeah.
to the group.
I understand, I
Mhm.
just,
And we do have two versions of the posters. So there's one that has a lovely peacock, and it's South Bay.
yeah, I
Stands
mean,
United,
it's
so
just
it's a
like
little bit
united is
prettier.
community, united
Yeah.
in, you know, together, united for our community. It just sends a better message.
And I know Councilmember Baldino has attended, I think, in the past. I think you were there last year. And you'll see that, you know, it is very positive.
Yeah,
you know,
no, I
any kind of
understand. It's
messaging
just,
around
you know,
it is. Mhm.
As an outsider walking down and you're
Yeah,
walking.
absolutely. I
Just- I
understand.
had to say that out loud because it bothered me last year. But anyway, but thank you very much.
Yes.
I would say the first go-round of the poster designs around the LA Against Hate, the entire county posters, the first round were pretty aggressive. They hated hate. So they got toned down a little bit.
All right, thanks. Good presentation. I know we worked a little bit on how we wanted to look at your work program going forward. And one of the things we talked about was we wanted to really focus on community-based. Okay, there's obviously a lot of national attention on things right now, but for our DEI committee, we wanted to address inside first. One of the things is, you know, how to become a more welcoming place. Well, it's taking care of your house first, right? And the word gets out that way. So I appreciate it. And the other thing is that I really wanted to have this committee have reachable goals, achievable goals that can be done within a 12-month cycle, to always have a set of priorities. And I think sometimes when we try to bite off a little bit too much, it's tough to get anything done. And I think this is a very workable format for you. One of the things you mentioned at the beginning was getting people on the committee. And it has been a challenge. If we look at the amount of people that have cycled through this DEI committee, I believe it is more than every other committee that we have ever had. So I do believe that part of it's bad luck. People moved out of town, they got a job, I get that. But I also believe that some of it has to do with people coming on and not really being interested in doing the work that needs to be done here. There's other work that they may have wanted to get done. So I think the answer to the riddle on that is that when we start to do interviews again and look for individuals who want to be on this, they have to be knowledgeable of what we're trying to accomplish in this committee. You know, unfortunately, we can't solve all the problems of the world from this one committee, but we can certainly try to address some of the outages we have in the city. So I think that's probably, along the lines of what you're thinking about when we start to recruit people in to be on this committee, is that understand really what this role is and how you can help that out. But overall, I think it's a good work plan, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. And now we do have 3 years of work to kind of reference, and show people, so they can have an idea of what to expect if they were on the committee. I think that helps.
One question I want to ask you, there was the, was it the South Bay Coalition Against Hate? Is that the bigger regional group? Has there been any more meetings? Have you or anyone have you been doing that fairly consistently? Because they do think that should be a normal part of the process, and whether it's you rotate the individuals that go or have one person assigned. I think as you start to get on a little bit bigger platform there, and being on the regional board, I think that's going to be a big help.
Oh, it's been huge. I've participated as often as I can. They do have monthly meetings, and if I can't be there, I do try to make sure another committee member can attend. It's relatively new, but already off to a really great start. And so yes, Avery had already moderated an event for them as well. So we're hoping to continue to work together.
Great, thank you.
As part of these subcommittees, do they all report out for the year at every time you guys have a meeting, do your subcommittee reports?
Yes.
Because I think I would be interested, particularly in the community liaison piece. You know, one of our concerns is the classic, what are we missing? And I know we talk about it sort of each time, but as the South Bay ages, what sort of ability levels, we're going to approve a big rec park plan. Are we adequately planning for the different ability levels of the user groups of that? The Festival of Holidays certainly highlighted huge swaths of the community that we don't see all the time that make up an inordinate amount of our population. So I think it would be very interesting to see as these members are in the community. If there's things in language groups and cultural groups and ethnicities and ability levels that we are just not seeing up here that we need to have highlighted so we can build into our capital plans or our Festival of the Holiday plans, those sorts of items.
I love that. Yes, absolutely. We can keep you in the loop.
But that's my 2 cents. If anyone else, anything else? Can we have a motion to review and approve the DEI committee's work plan?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to direct staff to work with the DEI committee to implement the recommended activities?
So moved.
Baldino seconds, sure.
It's a Baldino second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Kristen Bell. Great to see
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
All right. Halfway home.
And thank you for sticking around.
All right. City Clerk, any reports?
No, thank you.
City Treasurer. Rise and shine. Look at that fresh haircut. First day on the job here.
Fresh shave. This is it all.
Matt, you should know to show up a little later.
Yeah, I've been mentally reducing my presentation as every 15 minutes go by, I deduct a slide from my talking points. Okay. No, that's not. There we go. That's what I want. Sorry, thank you. Okay, I'm just gonna hit the high points. I know it's cleared this place out. On this slide, I just kind of wanted to highlight the bottom right area, which is basically showing that the weighted average yield of maturity is, roughly 5.5% across the portfolio. So, that being said, we have a $138 million portfolio. So, we're talking $6 to $7 million a year is kind of something that it's effectively money in the bank, as much as you can say it is. Is the mic off? Okay. So that's a good thing, obviously. Portfolio through time, only thing I'll highlight here is, there hasn't been much change in the last quarter. We have about 17 million in liquidity. And that's important because we want to make sure that we have enough liquidity to weather, the worst storm that we've seen. And that actually was COVID, I think, for our 12-month drawdown of 15 million. So we're still in good shape.
That doesn't count the Economic Emergency Fund, right? That's 3 million on top of that. Or does that count that?
I'm pretty sure that's in there.
Okay.
But still, I think that's probably larger than it even needs to be in terms of the liquidity that we might need, and with how safe these investments are. I mean,
Joe is going to come running through that door.
Okay, so I wasn't actually saying the $3 million economic uncertainty. I was saying the $17 million buffer in liquidity assets that we have. Only thing new here is there's a couple new colors. We have the Cal Trust is now represented here, about 7 million in that, which is kind of like a mutual fund. And then we also have our new cash sweep vehicle, which is the money market fund that I briefly touched upon last quarter, was not in the actual report. Ladder is pretty diversified. I'll go through these quick. This is ladder by asset type. You can see that we've really, in 2026, 27, 28, it's kind of, a three-headed dragon here of we're really focusing on medium-term notes, CDs, and treasuries. That's kind of where all of our new investments have been going. Skip past that. The portfolio line, every portfolio entry here is, we have over 200 positions now. We're pretty fully invested now. There's not a whole lot of day-to-day investment transactions, as you can see here. In the last 3 months, we've made 11 transactions, all buys of CDs. It's about, you can see, I think there's, 3, 4, and 5 year CDs, most of them being 5 year CDs. about 2.7 million total. Got the full moon pie chart here of all CDs, 2.7 million. Have about between 700 and 800,000 in interest over the last quarter. The big interest month is going to be, or the big interest quarter is going to be the second quarter, because that's where we have those big treasury positions that all pay coupons in June. Compliance, everything is good and compliant. This column weight is all less than the max weight. Negotiable CDs is pretty close, and that's something that I'm trying to get an expert opinion on. I've asked a few people around about, including brokers who will give me the answer that they want me to hear about, you know, our CDs and what is negotiable and what is a non-negotiable CD. Non-negotiables actually have an unlimited, or they have a 100% cap. So still trying to figure that out. Rating, all the ratings are, well, at time of purchase are A- or better. You can see there's a few that have dropped to still investment grade BBB. We've been over that before though. LAIF is a very small investment for us right now. It's like $1.5 million. I have to look. But it's certainly less than 3 million. So that's, you know, 2% of our portfolio, but that yield is rising. We'll actually probably be mostly out of LAIF by the next time I present. City cash flows, you can see we're, you know, credits and debits are pretty equal except for the months of February, April, March. We have a significant more credits, and then in June we have the POB. We have a pretty big debit of 10 million. You can see we're pretty predictable on our cash flows, which is nice. You know, you can see over the last, you know, 3 years, including this year, you know, these lines are very close. We have a pretty predictable inflow-outflow pattern. And, you know, 2 years ago we didn't have the POB, so that's why that looks off. And then this is a bit of an anomaly. A number of other things contributing to that I don't know are important. This is the drawdown I was talking about through COVID, that 15 million. You know, if that were to happen again, you know, we have 17 million liquidity, even though that was very temporary. Economic environment, this is probably actually the more relevant thing to talk about here is, you know, we're starting to see, I guess they're saying last week that the economy is cooling down, and therefore I think that the Fed is realizing that they've maybe have pushed hard enough, and that, you know, we may not have any more rate hikes. Everyone's waiting for a recession. Everyone's waiting for the rates to come down. They haven't come down yet, but everyone's saying, you know, next month, next quarter, eventually happen, I assume. Rates, short-term rates really peaked up here. You can see the 1 month got up over 6%. I think that was in May. Came back down, back up in mid-October, and then now we're kind of back down to where this was at the end of September, which is where this report was, but pretty high rates still. Inverted yield curve still. It's gotten a little bit better, but still inverted, but still no recession. Employment, and so that was kind of one of the things that the stock market was up quite a bit last couple of days, because, you know, they're starting to think that there may not be more rate hikes, and therefore they're going to start dropping rates, and then the economy is going to improve. So one of the big things that came out was that unemployment went up a little bit, which again was their indicator that, okay, maybe we've pushed hard enough. But there are a few other data points that were not necessarily bad, but not good. But anyway, 5-year break-even inflation is pretty close to what they target, which is about 2%. So market seems to think that they can get inflation back under control. And that's it. Any questions? Sorry, that might have even been longer.
Council questions?
No, yeah, thank you as always for your work and diligence on this. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Treasurer. Do we have consensus to receive and file?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Consensus has been achieved. We'll receive and file. All right, Councilmember reports. Councilmember Baldino.
Yes, quickly. I attended the Chevron event on the 3rd. They were celebrating the fact that they are exploring and now producing renewable fuels from soybeans. And so I want to thank Jeff Wilson and Frederick Walker for that event. And I'd be remiss if I did not plug the most important CIF semifinal game tomorrow here at our own aquatic center, 4:30. Come watch our undefeated El Segundo High School Eagles dominate in the semifinals tomorrow. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Giroux.
I think I'm going to let, it's tough to follow Ryan on that, so I got nothing else to add to that rousing endorsement for our team.
Councilmember Piersick.
I just want to remind everybody that the State of the City is on November 15th. If you haven't got a ticket, we have Ed Ladies Night Out on 14th. And then Ed Ladies Night Out is on the 16th. And I just want to thank the Parks and Recs and Public Works for the great Halloween frolic that happened the Saturday before Halloween. And that's it.
A few items. The Transportation Committee did not have any items to agendize. That's largely because all things Green Line and all things Sepulveda Corridor have been postponed by Metro into the next year. Again, the train extension is incredibly divisive between some of our neighbor cities, so that has been pushed until more input is received by Metro. That decision likely will not be until February for Metro, so we might see it at the COG level at our meetings in December, which we'd get a briefing by Caltrans, by Metro themselves, and then likely with a sort of scopes trial version of one city in another city talking about how bad each other's plan is. So that'll be exciting. I encourage you all to be sick that day. We have volunteer appreciation for the COG coming up next week. If any of you could make it, that's very much for council member reports only. Just check your email on that. Sanitation, all the sanitation focus right now on the county side is dealing with the landslides in Palos Verdes and how it affects sanitation flows and the outfall down there. That matters to us because it's going to cost a lot more money than we originally anticipated to have effectively the geography of Palos Verdes. So you have to pump the wastewater up and over Portuguese Bend to get it down to Carson to get it out, or down to Pedro to get it out. Those pipes are incredibly sensitive to landslides, at which point, if there is a failure, they will have to have a fleet of trucks that will effectively pump out sanitation troughs and drive the wastewater to Carson to be treated to then be sent down to San Pedro. That's a significant cost. We sit in 2 of the districts that would be a part of that. We're working on engineering solutions now, but understand there's about $6 million of problems out there shared with the county. But to that end, in a positive development, the county's movement to a giant regional recycling network for that water, and that's a 15-year project, is moving apace. They were successful in applying for a lot of the federal infrastructure grants to try and bring that forward, which would be somewhat of a victory for us in El Segundo as we pushed for it as part of our issues with Hyperion's recycling efforts as well. Let's see. Other than that, there was one more thing, and it eludes me. I'm sure it was significant and mind-blowing. It will come to me as if in a dream later. All right. Mayor Boyles is not here, so city attorney is going to read us a motion to rezone his house. And then, no, city attorney, your report, please.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So this is an update regarding litigation that, in which by latest count, 29 LA County cities have sued the Los Angeles Superior Court to oppose implementation of the court's latest bail schedule and its inclusion of protocols that allow for pre-arraignment release and $0 bail for certain offenses. As some speakers mentioned earlier this evening, there's been ample information promulgated regarding the new protocols and the associated lawsuit. And my office has provided privileged briefings on the matter to council, but we do want to publicly provide a current snapshot of the litigation and associated implementation of the protocols that took effect October 1st. So just a couple days later after the protocols took effect on October 3rd, the presiding judge in the Los Angeles Superior Court case ordered that the case be transferred outside of the county in the interest of justice so that an in-house Los Angeles Superior Court judge was not presiding over a matter concerning colleagues and peers. Accordingly, the case has been since transferred to the Honorable Judge Claster in Orange County Superior Court, and there have been no court hearings on the case since the transfer. To provide some additional input, I will now invite El Segundo Police Chief Bermudez to speak about his department's experience with the new protocols. Following his presentation, the council will have the opportunity to discuss and provide direction, if any. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. I do want to give you a quick brief on how PARP has been, Zero Bail has been working with the El Segundo Police Department. So it's been a little bit over a month. I can tell you that what I've been seeing in our jails with our arrestees, it has been working. The people that should stay in custody, we have been requesting MR evaluations, and they have been staying in custody. So we have no issues with the way the system has been rolled out. It's only been a month, a couple days, but so far, the people that we've been discussing with at the courts have been very receptive, and I genuinely believe that they're trying to make the system work. And as of right now, it is working.
Chief, has from the time that the initial idea rolled out or to now, has there been some movement in how it is being, I guess, executed as far as protocols? Because it was kind of rigid when it first came out.
Yeah, there was a couple things. So when it first came out, I came before council to talk about the program. Number one, I believe, and a lot of other chiefs believe, and a lot of members of the public believe that, at least this is the information that I was getting, that the information wasn't being relayed out to the public. So there was very little public discussion about what Zero Bail meant for the residents. That was number one. Number two, there was some confusion about what exactly MR meant. Would people be released or would they be released with certain conditions?
Chief,
or
I'm sorry to interrupt. Just to note, yes. MR is magistrate review for the public.
Review, yes. Apologize. I've been hearing these terms for the last 3-4 months. So now that we've put it into practice, MR has been implemented the way that I think it should be, and that's for public safety.
Are you seeing benefits to this that maybe we didn't see before?
Yes, so people that, the argument has been that people prior to Zero Bail could get out of custody by paying the bail. We have been seeing many instances where people who genuinely should not be out in the community are being held in custody by the courts. And so that has been well received, obviously, by the police department, because we have seen it work.
Thank you, Chief. So I'll let everybody know that the South Bay COG invited the Executive Superior Court to give a presentation, which he did on Monday. I attended by Zoom. We were all emailed his PowerPoint. And what my main takeaway is that, one, it is the authority and the requirement of the Superior Court to set these bail schedules. And what this has actually done is taking something that used to be, the more awful the crime, the more money you had to pay to get out. But under a money bail system, even if you were a bad person, if you had the money, you could go back in the street. This basically says, we're going to look at the individual, we're going to look at your past history, and we're going to decide, have a magistrate review and decide if this person is allowed to go back out or needs to stay in custody. The numbers that they gave us, and the fear that's been expressed is that by cite and release, criminals are going to commit a crime, they're going to get booked, they're going to be set free, and they're going to go commit another crime. The statistics that were presented at the South Bay COG were that 52% using their ranking of those who are eligible for money bail were considered medium to high risk score, meaning they were bad people. 85 of those who've been released under this magistrate system, and this is a month's worth of data, were all ranked as low risk. As far with the rebookings, they said of the however many, there's been 2.5% of individuals who were cited, released, and rebooked, and that came out to 128 individuals. Almost half of those were out on money bail, and they could find only 2 that were rebooked after they had gone through a magistrate review and they were released. With respect to the lawsuit, I did ask the city attorney to send it to me. He did. I reviewed it. In my opinion, it is not well pled. It is a city suing the court, suing the Superior Court judge and the clerk, saying, even though we understand it in the Constitution, it is your responsibility to set the bail schedules. We don't like the decision you made, and we want you to change your opinion. And I think you can transfer that to any court in the state of California, and you're going to be hard-pressed to find support for granting that lawsuit. So my personal opinion is our resources are best served locally with our police, working the system, working with the courts, and making sure that we're being protected, as opposed to spending money to join a litigation that I think is not well formed.
Councilmember Pierstick, any comments? Yeah. I would say if there's, in the honeymoon period of this, it seems as though it is adequately serving public safety. I think if there is a detail that we need to be mindful of is in this short data capture, the citations, right, the cite and release, and I know, Chief, we've discussed this in our subcommittee, by the nature of the way those are recorded, you do not necessarily know if someone is being cited and released in one court and then another court, and then another court, if those two have delayed mechanisms for reporting those up into a common system. So it'd be different. Book and release, we can see them. They get booked into a system, it's easier to see them. Cite and release can have, it can take months for someone to key that in. So that will be something to be mindful of. That would be my 2 cents, although that doesn't really deal specifically with the lawsuit issue. That's just like a bit of my commentary on the program as it rolls out. With that said, does anyone want to move to join this lawsuit? Okay, and with that, we will continue as we were earlier. We'll continue as is. I did remember my last piece of report, just to jump back one, and that is we attended the building operators and managers had a meeting about sort of why in the South Bay, Long Beach and El Segundo continue to see permits at a higher rate and rental is at a higher rate than our neighbors. Interesting dialogue, and they directly addressed one of our sort of bugaboo of how do we keep a successful startup from outgrowing El Segundo and directly going to Long Beach. And it was just an interesting and long-flowing debate, dialogue about how their warehouses are redone to accommodate it. And I was thinking about how we have been very flexible with some of our warehousing, how we have adjusted our inspections and permits to allow people to have sort of live workspaces in our warehouse districts to try and maintain those. So that was my report piece. It's pretty interesting online dialogue. They sent me a recording of it if anyone has 40 minutes to burn. All right, with that, I think, City Manager, anything?
Just on a much lighter note than no bail, if you recall, maybe about a year ago, they were filming a movie here in downtown, Candy Cane Lane movie. Amazon was filming it. It's a new Christmas movie with Eddie Murphy. Well, that movie will now be live starting. They're going to start live streaming that on December 1st, but they actually want to work with us now on doing possibly a movie, preview or showing the week of, I think, the 27th. So we'll keep you posted about that. So try to be interesting to see how that works out. But yeah, so the week of the 27th, we're looking at some sort of a watch party, potentially. That's it for me.
I nominate Joaquin to be my stunt double. All right, and no closed session report today. We will adjourn. Today we're going to adjourn in a memorial, and this is in the vein that oftentimes we talk about people who have an impact in our community, and we also talk about the vitality of our business sector. And come 30 years ago, there was a giant in El Segundo named Roderick Sherwood, who at the time was a CFO at Hughes. He would go on to be the executive vice president at DirecTV, who is hosting a Rose Bowl float for us. He did not come from El Segundo, right? He came to us from Stanford by way of Harvard Business School and bounced around from organization and corporation in El Segundo, one after another after another. Finally, at Westwood One, there's a CEO there, and then went to found a number of children's charities with his then wife in Beverly Hills. So Roderick Sherwood III is not a member of our community now, and is probably a bit lost to memory for a lot of us, but certainly for a period at the end of the Cold War through the early 2000s was a giant and a pillar of the community, and is known well to the ebbs and flows of the PCT Tower. And his passing this month at October 19th is something that I thought, given the outsized influence he had in our city, it was worth memorializing him today. So, and with that, we'll adjourn in his honor.